Meyer backpedaling, running out of time, spinning away, and nobody open. Now he flips it up into traffic and makes a mistake. Trying to force the play, and it's intercepted. BJ Mays rumbling down inside the 10.
This is 365 Sports.
Bowling Green with no timeouts. Nick Singleton. Touchdown, Penn State.
365 Sports is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Klubnik, undaunted, unafraid, complete, Turner, touchdown!
365 Sports is also brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952.
Why not?
365 Sports is turbocharged by Unite Private Networks. Find out more at uniteprivatenetworks.com.
Jennings on the play fake, slides it upfield. Matthew Hickner off to the races. Hickner at the 30, full speed, and the big tight end goes 75. It's a Pony Express.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
All right, here we go on this Thursday afternoon. We hope you've had a great day, and we'll take you over the next 3 hours with various news and notes, a lot of it college football, but some other notes. The NBA draft continues tonight. In fact, it was last night too, and a few Big 12 notes about that as well. But this was interesting earlier today. PayPal and the Big 10 and the Big 12 have an agreement that they will become the league's platform for dispersing revenue-sharing payments to athletes. This is from Brandon Marcello and all the others who cover college athletics. The Big 12 and PayPal began discussing naming rights in 2024. This is for both the Big 10 and the Big 12. It also includes Venmo, which is owned by PayPal. And each school, Brandon Marcello also adding in the Big 12, will get $1 million over the length of this particular agreement.
Yeah, it's a big deal. It started, I saw from Ross Dellinger that it had started as PayPal perhaps being the title sponsor of the Big 12 and then morphed into this. And obviously the Big 10 is doing it as well. I guess he said that as well, Brandon Marcello. But so good. I mean, that's great. $1 million per school. It's nothing to sneeze at, but $1 million goes away really fast in modern college football, doesn't it?
Yeah, it can, but raising $1 million also takes a little while, doesn't it?
It does.
So I'd rather have $1 million than not have $1 million. But yeah, I'd rather have 5 or 10 if we're talking like big picture. But this is interesting. I mean, I like that they're going this route as opposed to the naming rights. I don't know how much I would have loved PayPal, Big 12 conference, or whatever that would have sounded like and looked like. I think that's probably still on the table. If the money's right, that's something they'll always be open for business for, so to speak, in the Brett Yormark regime. But this instead is notable for sure, and it's of interest. And I think there's just some details I wonder about, as far as the fees and things that come with this, and the incentive for PayPal to make this deal, because how do they make money off of it? And I've seen, various, I guess, thoughts in a couple of forums on, well, you hope that maybe they just keep their money there and they spend it through the site, and that's how they can recoup some of it. And there's also, I guess, fees as well. But interesting route to take. Everybody's trying to find ways to make money, and this is definitely a way the Big 12's added a good chunk of money to all of their schools. So I think it's a good thing. It doesn't go the naming rights route. I feel like we're probably going to get there at some point somewhere, and maybe it is the Big 12, but this is interesting, and I'm open to hearing the downsides to it. I don't love the incorporation of, because this is pro football now, guys. Like, this is clearly now pro football. But I'm interested to hear kind of how people unpack this, the goods, the bads of it. But certainly another sign that we're in this new era.
Here's how I look at it. You need money, so you get $1 million each over the next 5 years combined. The Big 12 gets $100 million, so PayPal gets to do business with the athletes and the schools. And I have PayPal. I have Venmo. It's a very simple thing to do, to pay people for services or gifts or whatever it might be. But when I saw initially, did anybody else, when I saw the Big 12 and the Big 10 not doing something so much together, but both involved in this, I was like, all right, I like that. That doesn't mean they sat down together, but both of them doing a sponsorship among those two conferences that are very rarely tied together.
Yeah, I wouldn't really read into that at all, because it's just two of the conferences that have agreed to it. It says in the article they've talked with various other conferences, so this wasn't some exclusive thing by any means. And I know we want to rush to kind of like pair these tandems together and say, oh, they're working together, or they're helping each other out, or they're going to tag team this group, and that's not really what this is. This is just those two happen to be the ones that agreed to it. I don't think it was in conjunction in any way, because, again, they're apparently talking to other conferences. And at worst, I mean, if Venmo and PayPal don't get an SEC agreement or an ACC agreement, then I'm sure other companies like them or similar, in terms of the money they're looking to spend and what they might attach their name to, I think that just opens the doors further for other businesses, for other conferences to have more suitors that come to the table. So maybe this opens the doors more wide open than they were before. But those two just happen to be the ones. Venmo will be the presenting partner of the Big Ten rivalry series, and also be an official partner for Big 12 championship events. So I don't know what that looks like in terms of the marketing of it all, but you will see Venmo across the Big 12 or the Big 10 rivalry series, and also the Big 12 championship events. So this is part of just the new era, and trying to find ways to make more money. And every school in the Big 12, I didn't see the total for the Big 10, but every school in the Big 12 has got an extra $1 million. So, put that to good use and go get yourself whatever you need to go get with that.
I would think that PayPal, and I don't know how this works, I have money again in PayPal, not a lot, but a few $100, Venmo a little bit more. I have sponsors who pay me through Venmo. I would think that they end up getting some sort of, they don't get my money, but they make interest, I'm sure, off the money I have in my account.
Well, they can, because if you send money and then somebody wants it, they have to pay a fee for it.
Yep. Yeah.
So I have to wait for 2 days to get the money that you sent me through PayPal, or you could have just directly given it to me, which is, I'm sure, what the athletes are thinking right now of like, why didn't we just get this straight? But hey, you wanted a business. You opened Pandora's box, right? So you're still going to get your money, but if you want it right away, then you might have like a $7.50 fee or whatever. I don't know how it changes with the various totals, but you wanted business. Well, everybody's going to get all the business that they can possibly stomach, I think, over the next few years. And that includes a sponsorship for how you now get paid. Mm-hmm. So if this is a sign of things to come, then everything's going to have some attachment to it. But this is what the end result is with student athletes getting paid, or just athletes getting paid, however you want to refer to them now, you've opened the door for all sorts of sponsorships, for the better or worse. And so this one, I immediately thought, like, well, if it's sitting there in PayPal, how does that work? It's why I mentioned a few seconds ago. If you're PayPal, how are you making money off this? I guess you're making money potentially off of fees if they want to transfer it immediately. You're also hoping they just stay within your little website and they spend money on the various deals that you have with companies like Polo or whatever, clothing companies or whoever. I don't know how many people do that. I don't personally. I kind of get my money and go, but I guess that's what PayPal is hoping will happen with some of this. And I'm sure there's something I'm entirely missing where they're making money off of this as well. But yeah, it's an interesting arrangement. That's a sign of things to come. And it's a little bit more money for the Big 10 and the Big 12. And we'll see about others, since they're talking to others along the same time. Well,
if they're going to be the exclusive way that they get paid, they're going to make money on every single transaction that's made.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's like, it sounds dumb that they wouldn't do it. Like, if every athlete in the Big 12 and the Big 10, starts using PayPal and Venmo to send all these things, well, I mean, that's hundreds of athletes that only have to use that. So they've created a kind of a captive market there, because say you just I'm a Cash App guy. I'm this or whatever. I like Zelle. Well, the Big 12 and the Big 10 be like, well, you better hop on board, because this is how we're going to pay you. So,
I mean, can you avoid some fees?
I'm sure. I think you can. I mean, there's
like
ways.
You wait a day. I know, when I've gotten sent something before, it's like I have to wait 2 days to get it, and I get no fees. But I mean, there's got to be some sort
There's also a friend-to-friend thing.
Like, no, here, for example, if I have high school football broadcasters that I pay, and I send them $50, $75, or whatever the amount of $150 for a broadcast, there's a box that I check that does not include fees. No one that, like, for example, if it's a gift, there's no fees. If it's a business option, then there's going to be $15 or $25.
The obvious here is they're paying taxes.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's the obvious. So if you were hoping to skirt taxes by the way you were going to get paid or something, that's not going to be possible here, right? So you're going to be paying taxes on this money. That's one thing that will be, I think, eye-opening for probably some athletes. But, I mean, you send it and then you get it however you get it, and eventually you get taxed for it after the fact. So, I think that's something that hopefully they're educating the athletes of, like, you do realize you probably need to tuck away, like, some of this every time you get paid, just for when the IRS man comes back at the annual part of the year where he comes to collect. So that'll be a part of the education process, I get. But I like this rather than the full-blown naming rights, even though I'm sure we'll see their name plastered all over the place, like with the championship events, it said. But it's still the Big 12, not the PayPal Big 12. So I think that's a win as well as a part of all this.
All right, so there we are with that. Some of you asking as well, what does PayPal get out of it? They will get out of it interest or whatever, taxes, services, fees. Like, I was getting ready to send $25 to Craig, but I didn't like you looked at me just now. $25 as just a gift. There is no fee. If it's a goods and services, then there's a fee.
Right. And so that's what we're talking about here, is how does this work out for PayPal? That was my question. I guess they get, like, the fee if you want to get it immediately, $1.50 or whatever it is, rather than having to wait 24 hours or I don't know. That's the part I was curious about as well, that I guess you guys don't know either. And I guess we'll learn more as this moves along.
Well, let me see. Gary, you want me to send you the $25 I was going to send Craig? I click goods and services, and let's see if there's a fee involved in that. I don't think there will be. Maybe it's a certain amount of money before there's a fee. Brett McMurphy also, we've seen a lot of changes in the last, 24 to 48 hours with realignment and speculation. It's been kind of fun, and Matt Brown was great yesterday as everyone's trying to get kind of their act in order before July the 1st. Here's his merry-go-round summary. Texas State will leave the Sun Belt for the Pac-12. Louisiana Tech will leave Conference USA for the Sun Belt. Conference USA likely remains at 10 schools in 2026, so they don't seem to be having any changes even coming up in 2026. So there's Brett McMurphy with that. The Texas State thing, by the way, Andrew, didn't he just put up a poll about Texas State and the thoughts about them going to the Pac-12? Is it a great move? Whatever. I don't see how it could be anything other than a great move for them when and if that happens.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about this at pretty great length with Matt yesterday, just in general, and I think it's a good move for Texas State. It's a step up for them. To what degree, I don't think we really know that right now, but it is a step up, and they're just going to be playing on the other side of the country as opposed to the side they've been playing on. So I think that's a good move for the Pac as well to get into Texas. I don't know. It's not like some nuclear bomb going off and like this is the game changer and all of that. It's not like the money suddenly skyrockets because you added the Bobcats or anything, but it does give you more geography. It does give you a team that's an interesting team, especially right now. That's a little bit different than just having the West Coast Collective. Although I liked the West Coast Collective or the Western States Collective they kind of had going. This gets outside of that to a degree, but it's for a team in Texas that's trying to spend money and be great. And so I think that that's a valid team to add. And obviously the TV partners must have agreed as well. So the rest of it, I mean, like I said yesterday, it gets all kind of very confusing, but there are some other interesting moves that are happening as the trickle-down effect continues. Nothing at the power level going on. It seems right now it's all chatter about Pac and subsequently all the dominoes that fall around them. So Texas State was the one we've been waiting on, and that one looks like it's going to be official in a matter of, the next couple days or so. It looks like the next few days before July 1st.
July 1st is next week. Is it Monday of next week? I think it is because the 4th is on Friday. So there we are with that. The NBA draft last night. 3 players from the Big 12 were drafted in the first round. 3 of them starting with VJ Edgecombe of Baylor at the 3rd pick to Philadelphia. And then Igor Demin from BYU to Brooklyn. And Carter Bryant from Arizona drafted 14th overall to Arizona. VJ Edgecombe, highest draft pick ever for Baylor. Watch the emotions from this young man when being interviewed after being selected 3rd by the Sixers.
You saw the emotions on your mom's face. Yeah. What were the moments you remember most about just the way your mom poured into you throughout your life and your career?
Man, them long nights. I'm telling you, I lived off a generator. I ain't had no electricity. I lived off a generator for 7 years. Man, seeing what she had to go through to feed us, man, it's crazy. It's crazy, but I don't even know, man. My mind everywhere right now, man.
I'll let you guys talk first.
Yeah,
that was awesome.
I saw it last night. I wasn't surprised. He's a very genuine guy. I was on with my long lost twin Mike Gill today in Atlantic City. They obviously cover the Sixers, and his station has the Sixers. And I was telling him, like, look, if I'm Philadelphia and I've already gone through all the Ben Simmons nonsense that they went through for years. And it, like a really like selfish player and all that they went through. And then Ace Bailey decides he's not going to go work out or whatever. The thing I'm doing is I'm not only finding somebody with a similar skill set to Ace Bailey, which VJ has, I'm finding somebody who is young and hungry and, really has something out there to prove and, loves it, and he's got this great story. That's what I want, because this is not a team like they're a lottery team because all 3 of their best players got hurt this year. They're not a lottery team because they've been bad for a long time. So I think this all worked out for VJ, and you see what kind of a genuine human being he is. We know that because we got to talk to him a couple times while he was here, but I thought it was, everybody loves their mom, but that was really special. She sacrificed a lot, clearly.
Yeah, there was a few things to this. I mean, seeing him with his family was cool. His brother was obviously very excited to see him get dapped up by Buddy Hield, who's a fellow Bahamian. Was a really cool and timely moment as well to have a guy who obviously paved the way for a player like him to follow in the footsteps and make the NBA and be a top draft pick. Pretty cool to see the former Sooner and Buddy Hield right there as he was getting off the stage and hugging his mom and dapping up his brother and then dapping up VJ as well. So that was cool, especially for people from the Bahamas, I'm sure. I love that he went number 3 because then I didn't have to really pay attention after that, honestly. I mean, I was watching to see when he was going to go. And then there's a lot of other players, like you mentioned, a couple of other Big 12 guys that get to go. But the NBA draft's not appointment TV for me like the NFL draft is. So I saw VJ go, and then I was like, all right, I don't feel like I really have to like stay glued to the TV to see when he's actually going to roll off the board now, which was great because I couldn't stand to listen to Kendrick Perkins any longer. After like about 10 minutes, I was like, I just can't do this anymore. So and then the option was like, go to the other channel. And there's Stephen A. And I was like, nope. So I'm just out, buddy. I'm watching whatever was on TV. I don't even remember what was in the background at that point. So thank you, VJ, for going as quickly as you did so that you saved me from all that commentary.
Here's the thing I cared about. I cared about what, like, making sure the Mavericks, like Nico didn't have this moment where he snuck out of the room and like called him and was like, hey, I'm trading it to the Lakers for a guy with a Liz Frank injury.
Yeah.
You know, like I knew that wasn't going to happen, but you never know. You got the phone.
Well, the fact that everybody's making that same joke the last 48 hours and really the last 5 weeks since they got the number one pick goes to show you how much damage he did. That everybody's joking, but they also are joking because they know, like, well, I mean, if anybody was going to do it, it would be this dude right here.
Yeah, I mean,
exactly.
But yeah, I went, and plus I really do like Cooper Flagg, so I wanted to see his interviews and all that stuff. And then of course I wanted to see what the Spurs were going to do, even though I knew it was going to be Dylan Harper. Just kind of curious about that, and I want to see where VJ went. And then after that, ran for a couple more minutes. Kendrick Perkins has no point on the draft. Jay Billis is always really good at everything. They need another draft person there, and that's not Perk for sure.
Well, the one tweet that I remember seeing pretty vividly was, we all know Jay Billis is the only one that knows what he's talking about on this panel, right? And I was sitting there, it's like, I don't know if that's fair or not because I don't know how much work the others did, but I don't like the first take thing. I don't do it. So like I see Perkins or Stephen A. and I'm just like, man, I don't know. And so I gave it a chance, but I had my fill pretty quickly. So I'm glad VJ went as quickly as he did so that wasn't having to be sort of locked into it. But it continues a great run for Baylor. I mean, as far as draft picks go, 5 years in a row with a first rounder. He joins, was it Davion Mitchell in 21? Then you had Sohan in 22, Keontae George 23, Jacoby Walter and Eves Missy in 24, and then Edgecombe here in 25. So 5 consecutive years with a first rounder, 6 first rounders in the last 5 years. This is the highest ever drafted at number 3 overall. Davion Mitchell and Jeremy Sohan went 9. Ekpe Udoh back in the day went 6. So 6 was the barometer. And way back, you had microwave Vinnie Johnson went 7th overall, but never had anybody higher than 6 until last night with VJ Edgecombe. So that was some history across the board for Baylor's draft profile. And I saw this conversation kind of creep up the last couple of years about, well, what do you care about more, is draft success or tournament success, as though you have to have one or the other. And that's where I will make my argument, is you don't have to have one or the other, and one doesn't necessarily dictate the other. I tell you what, not having all these draftees doesn't guarantee you'll go farther in the tournament. So I'd rather have the guarantee that you do have now, which is putting first rounders out like a hot potato, rather than let's get guys who will be here for 5 years and just hope they go deeper than the round of 32 or the Sweet 16 and get no coverage at all during the summertime.
Well, look, you have to build your team with all things now. You can't just limit it. And if you're going to get those guys, eventually you're going to get a guy who could probably go, close to the lottery, but stays another year because now he gets paid. It's a little unsure, and he can stay back and maybe win a title in a sophomore year.
Yeah, it's different now.
Like those things can happen now more than they could in the past. And because it is so chaotic to build a roster now, I don't think after this year it won't be as severe where you're looking at, 0 to 3 guys in a room after the season's over going, well, I got to go get at least 12 people,
They're also wanting it to be a very specific moment in time that's no longer here, where it was the beginning of the transfer portal, but no pay for play. And so you had like this window of less than 5 years where you could go grab these guys. But even Davion Mitchell had to sit, right? Like was there still the transfer?
Look,
Davion Mitchell, Jared
so they
Butler,
had to
and
be
Maceo
there.
T.
Once they had to be there once they transfer. They also weren't getting guys in their DMs every 5 minutes from every big school saying, hey, offer you $1 million, Davion, or whoever else. So to my point being, you can't replicate that moment in time. Even the championship being won in a bubble, like all of that was so unique that none of it even exists that way anymore. The transfer portal, there's no sitting out a year. There's money galore. Like, all of that's different now. So people long for, like, I wanted to build the way the 2021 team was built. And it's like, dude, you're not going to build a team like that anymore. I'm sorry to tell you. You got to find other ways to win.
That rule is gone. That 1 year, like, the 2021 team was a benefit of a couple of things. But I do think that 1 year rule benefited Davion and Maceo in particular. Jared Butler only had to sit out half the year, but he was part of this where they would have to sit and watch their team play a game. And then especially with Davion Mitchell and Maceo Teague, you've got little Energizer bunnies who just, are full of energy. So after everybody's tired and leaves, they're in the gym shooting and working after the game.
They were practicing against the 2020 team. Right,
yeah.
Exactly.
And so, like, so in 2020, they're watching this
Even
team.
though it was,
Yeah, and then, like,
so today, instead of, I just wanted to bring that up because I see that when they're kind of pumping up the draft picks and there's always but I'd rather have it like we had with the real team. It's like, dude, we're just not there anymore. Like, that doesn't exist at this point in time. So I'd rather have the draft picks, and at some point you're going to bust through. So 14 picks since 2012, most for any Texas school by not quite double, but almost double over UT's 8. I could go on and on. They've been pumping out the propaganda, as they should, with another first rounder. So, yeah, good for VJ Edgecombe. And they did mess up when I was watching that 3-minute window waiting for VJ to get picked. I forget what the anchor's name is, but she did call him Drew Scott, in quoting Scott Drew on VJ Edgecombe, which I was like, well, better luck next time, I guess.
So congratulations to everybody drafted. They're still around again, round two tonight on 7 o'clock on ESPN.
To be fair, one of the Property brothers is named Drew Scott. So it's not like there's not another famous person with the, like, that, it. So, I mean, I do. I like, yeah. No,
okay, well, Edgecombe VJ was drafted last night. Hey, one note that I don't know, Garrett, if you got this or not. The jacket that VJ Edgecombe was wearing.
He put that up.
I'm sorry. Designed by his brother with all his Bohemian roots.
Bahamian.
And all the other pictures of family and just awesome. That came out even before the draft began. There's Scott Drew, of course, his brother, also a part of that suit. So all black for VJ. And then the number 3 pick in the draft.
Yeah, just Bahamian, not Bohemian. There is a difference there between the
Bohemian
two.
Rhapsody.
Yeah, no, it's
yeah. All right. So also, by the way, Sam Kahn will join us today in just a moment. Shahan Jeraja today, and we'll have Phil Bennett today. We've had some of the bangers in the last week or two, and Phil Bennett today at just after 5 o'clock. One other college basketball note, we've seen what Texas Tech has lined themselves up with, KU and others in the Big 12, Iowa State with some of the future non-conference games. And this announced today that Baylor and Louisville will have a series coming up as well, regular season showdown. They'll be at Dickies Arena. And so 2 really good basketball teams. February 14th, Valentine's Day next year. Baylor and Louisville up in Fort Worth at Dickies Arena.
Yeah, that's a great venue. It's a fantastic venue for anything. They played in the NCAA tournament up there, so that's a really cool deal. That should be a fantastic game. Pat Kelsey and Louisville, made a statement in year one that they weren't going to be dead long, and they certainly made a run. I think they've got a great shot at contending for the ACC this next year.
Someone saw. Let's skip the Harpers. Let's go to the basketball season being expanded. NCAA approves now a 32-game college basketball season starting in 26 and 27. Do we need more regular season games?
I mean, you might not, but apparently the coaches would like some.
Yeah.
I mean, that's.
I was asking the question. I think it's great. Is it going to help them make more money because they play more games at home, or some of these NIL type deals that we see like in Vegas or wherever it might be?
I'm all for this, except I don't want this to be packaged with, oh, by the way, because that's been thrown out there this week that by August they'll determine if they're going to expand to 76 teams.
They're going to do that.
Yeah, they're going to do that. I don't want that to be packaged in with this and be like, hey, more basketball, more in the regular season is great. Although I think they have all of college sports has a calendar problem. College basketball needs to start like, you know how Christmas Day, and now that the NBA or NFL's taking over, Christmas Day was kind of the real jump off of the NBA season over they played before. I think they don't need to start until Thanksgiving or after Thanksgiving. December 1st should be college basketball to me. But, now that they're adding more games, that's not going to be the case.
Yeah, I mean, it's one game. I don't think it's really that big of a deal. They are allowed to play 31 already, so they can now play 32. I don't think it's some massive game changer and really any big difference at all. So I don't know why it would be anything other than, hey, if you want to play this 30-second game, then go for it. But it's not like you're jumping from 20 to 32 or something drastic or extreme. It's one single game extra that you can play. So for those that want to take that up, then they will. And for those that don't, then they won't. And I don't think anybody will probably even notice the difference, to be perfectly honest with you.
All right, there's some basketball news from last night, the NBA draft, college basketball in a couple of years, and much, much more to get to. When we come back, it's Sam Khan. He'll join us from theathletic.com. Shahan Jeraja today at 4. This is 365 Sports.
Pleasant. It's different than any other dentist office. I really feel like they care. And it's not that you're here for 2 hours waiting on someone to take care of you. It's quick and easy, and I bring my kids, and my kids love being here too. They really love the treasure box. Staff is really nice and accommodating, real friendly. You feel more like home. It's not sterile looking. Everybody has their own personalized rooms with decorations and decor, and they'll even have a blanket for you when it's cold. I've recommended people to actually come here, and they are patients now. I really love it here. It feels like family.
Right now at Berg Colgin Ford, we're bringing you an offer that's as big as America. Employee pricing for everyone. You pay what they pay. That means you drive home a new Ford F-150, Bronco Sport, Expedition, Super Duty. From America, for America. Employee pricing for everyone at BK Ford. Looking to sell your vehicle? Get top dollar for yours today. Don't miss out. Employee pricing is available for a limited time. Visit us anytime at bkford.com. Experience better at BK Ford.
I'll never get used to this. I'll never get used to this. This is how I wanna live. I'll never get used to this. I'll never get.
Whatever it is you wrangle, whatever seeds you sow, no matter what you nurture or what you choose to grow, at Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, we're proud to protect all Texans.
This is 365 Sports.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
365 Sports, and as those in the chat room say, it's con time. Sam Khan, theathletic.com, joins us on 365 Sports. Sam, thank you very, very much. So what are your thoughts about this PayPal, Venmo, and at least a little more scratch for the Big Ten's going to get some too, and also the Big 12?
Well, I think it's a functional thing, right? We all have to figure out how to pay the athletes. I guess you got to figure out the mechanism to do that. So, hey, in this era where everybody's trying to generate extra revenue streams to make up for the line item that is paying players now directly, that's another way to do it, I suppose. So announce your big sponsorship and all that. I know there's conferences and teams are going to use all different ones. Obviously, the conference-wide thing, that was interesting because I did not know it was going to be a conference-wide thing potentially, that the same conference would use the same mechanism. But there are a lot of services that programs use to do different things, from scheduling, recruiting, scouting, and then NIL is another thing. And so that kind of can vary program to program. So it's interesting to see that the conferences are doing joint deals to make sure that all the programs in their conferences use them.
What do you think will be the big change for Texas State in the Pac-12 as opposed to staying in the Sun Belt?
I think it's just going to be travel to different places. Right now, I don't feel like Texas State has a lot of natural rivals in the Sun Belt. They don't have any other Texas schools in there, so that's going to certainly be the case in the Pac-12. So I think it's just a lot of different travel, probably more money, because you're not going to make the move unless it's more money from your media rights deal. So that's a boost. And, the chance to, depending on what the TV deal looks like, which I know we saw it announced, but I'd like to see how the games get slotted, when they're going to get broadcast, how many midweek games or weeknight games are you talking about in this deal. How that falls out really matters a lot, because that's exposure for your program. How many times are you going to be on linear? How many times are you going to be on a weeknight where you have an exclusive window, like on a Thursday or Friday night, and so on. So I think those are the biggest things to keep an eye on for that program, because they need all the exposure they can get.
So it looks like they're off to the Pac, and we'll hear that probably in the coming days. Does that leave Tarleton as kind of like that next team that's seemingly trying to get their resources together and then and make a push to try to jump up another level? I mean, we've seen SMU do it in the last couple of years. Now Texas State. Is Tarleton the next one in the state of Texas, you think, that might try to make some moves?
Yeah, I think so. They've been the one that's been most aggressive. They've been willing to spend on facilities. They've been willing to hire notable coaches, and there's a real push there institutionally to do it. They really want it badly. I know when the last time CUSA expanded, there was a lot of push from that side, from the Tarleton side, to try to be considered for that. And as expansion continues, if you see teams defecting and you see conferences needing to replace a team, I think you're going to see their names come up quite a bit. They've made no secret of their desire to be at the FBS level.
Sam, we know that right now Willie Fritz, and it's great that he has the young man, the five-star quarterback Henderson, locked in, and hopefully that stays that way between now and signing day in December. BYU got their mother load, even though, again, it's for this class of 2026. 2 5-star quarterbacks in the Big 12. How much of a nice sign is that moving forward?
Yeah, it's interesting, because I think we all assume that in the NIL era that the schools with the most revenue and the most money are the ones that are going to win the recruiting battles. And I think we're starting to see that that's not always the case. Because certainly you're not going to confuse Houston as a school that has more money than a blue blood program, an SEC or a Big Ten program. So I have been impressed that they've been able to hang on to Keyshawn Henderson to this point. You still got about 6 months to go. But if you've gotten this far, I feel like you got to feel pretty good. Willie Fritz had that relationship with his coach, Michael Bishop, he coached at Blinn College way back in the day. So I think that's really big. And I think that is one thing that is underrated. I think in recruiting, yes, the money's going to matter. And when I've talked to personnel directors and coaches, when kids go on an official visit, all these official visits they did in June, before they have their exit meeting and talk to the coach, talking about the NIL contract or talking about the rev share contract is something you have to do now. That's a real part of the visit. And if the number's not right, then it makes a big difference. But I think it's not the only piece of the puzzle. I think being comfortable, having relationships, and having a system or a school that fits you, I think that still matters. It may not be the most important thing, but I think it still matters when you're comparing other schools that are recruiting you. And when you look at BYU, obviously they are a little bit better off financially, and they have been able to be aggressive a little bit financially. And they are a brand that's a little bit national in a way. You know, they're a program that people know nationally, that people have seen nationally. They have a national championship in their background. They had some great success last year, obviously, and flirting with the playoff, and I think that was big for them. And so to me, it is refreshing to see, hey, if you are not Alabama or Ohio State or Texas or Oregon, you can still go after these big guys, and you still can win some of these battles. You're not going to win all of them. You're not going to stock your roster with a bunch of 5-stars. You're not going to have the number 1 recruiting class. But if you can get a few of those guys and you can do something for your program and they can help lift your program, I think it means a lot in the short term and in the long term for your school's success and branding.
As somebody who doesn't mind watching the world burn, I'm waiting for that recruit that pulls in Texas Tech and BYU and has them as like his final 2 suitors to try to outbid one another and see what that would look like. So we're seeing all these lists, right? All the magazines are coming out as well. And so it's a lot of talk now about the actual season, which is fun. Mentioned Willie Fritz a second ago in light of Sean Henderson. And I just wondered, what is your level of, I guess, expectation or just kind of the feel you get when you think about Connor Wegman and what kind of a difference he can make for Houston this year and what kind of a difference they expect him to make this year for them?
Yeah, I think the question relies largely upon one thing: is his health. Can he stay healthy? Because that's what's bothered him at Texas A&M. And I know there were times where he didn't play well, but last year I don't know that at any point in the season he was 100%. Even that opening game against Notre Dame, he, to me, did not look like himself. And so now that he's had an off season to recover and he's got a fresh start, he's in a new place, he's back in his home city, does that equate to more success for him? I will say from a schematic standpoint, I really like the fit because Slade Nagel, the new offensive coordinator who was at Tulane when they made that run to the New Year's Six, he had Michael Pratt, and Pratt, of course, we know was really successful at Tulane. When you watch Pratt play, I think the skill set that he had is not terribly dissimilar to what the skill set that Connor Wegman has is. And so when I think, can I plug Connor Wegman into that offense and be successful? I think he absolutely can. And I think more important than just the system fit is what they put around him. They went really heavy in the portal. They got a couple tight ends. They got some running backs. They got 5 offensive linemen, most of whom have Power 4 experience or have a lot of playing experience. And I think that was huge because their offensive line was a mess last year. They really need to upgrade that. So it didn't matter who was at quarterback. If they didn't upgrade everything else around the quarterback, then they weren't going to be successful. So I think they have a chance to be good. I still do have some questions for them defensively because they were so good last year. And I think Sheil Wood is such a great coordinator. That was a great get for Texas Tech. Is Armstrong going to be the guy to be able to keep that going? Because to me, defensively, they were good enough to be a bowl team last year. That defense kept them in so many games. And if they were just showed any kind of life offensively, they would have gone to a bowl game. If they can at least, maybe they won't be as good defensive, but if they can at least approach where they were last year defensively and take a step forward, which they really can't go anywhere but up offensively, then you're looking at a team that can maybe squeeze themselves into a bowl game and play in the postseason.
Sam, which Big 12 team, if you had to make a bet, would be the next one to lock up a 5-star quarterback? Probably not one in this cycle, but the next one to do it.
Probably Texas Tech, right?
Yeah.
Because, I mean, again, so I said what I said earlier about money, but it still does matter, right? Yeah. So I think when you know what they can offer, can they, and the kind of quarterbacks that the state of Texas produces, they produce 5-star quarterbacks on the regular. So can they go in and be the program that steals one of those? I think they're one that has a shot, but I think I don't think you can rule out other programs either. I think Arizona State, when you see Arizona produces a lot of big time quarterbacks, a lot of high end quarterbacks, and you see what Sam Leavitt did last year, you see them made the playoff. I think they're a team that you'd have to put into that conversation and possibly getting a 5-star. Those would be the two. I think Texas Tech and Arizona State would be the two. But there's also other programs, like I said, if Houston can get one, why can't TCU? Josh Hoover's had a great career. I think he's going to have a great season this year. Baylor has had some really good quarterbacks in their history. If they can keep it going, I think it's possible for a lot of these programs. But if I'm picking most likely, I'd say Arizona State or Texas Tech.
I was gonna say Arizona State just because of Kenny Dillingham. I mean, like, this is a guy. He is the he is the quarterback guru right now. I mean, it's a constantly like 3-card money shifting, title. It was Lincoln Riley forever. And then, Jimbo was actually the guy for a while where he was putting guys at the top of the draft. Now it's Kenny Dillingham.
Yeah, and again, it's going to go to his Activate the Valley thing because Arizona has become a real hotbed for talented quarterbacks. They've become a breeding ground for them. So if they're close by and he can get them and he gets people excited about Arizona State football on top of what you mentioned with his offensive acumen and his history, then I think it's absolutely in the cards for them.
Do you think the Big 12 will always be a conference where teams that aren't given much of a chance have a chance to play for the Big 12 championship?
I think it's for the short term. I think it's still going to be that way, but I do think over time we will establish a pecking order because right now we're in such a world of chaos and so much has changed, and how you build a roster has changed, and how you keep and retain talent has changed, how you develop talent, how you retain coaches, and what your coaching staff looks like. All this stuff has changed, and so everybody's trying to figure out what to do, how to do it well, how to do it better than the other guys. And so that gives a lot of opportunities for programs like an Arizona State, who we saw finish last a couple years ago. They went heavy in the portal. They did really good evaluations. Everybody talks about Sam Levin now. One thing that I think that goes unsaid and unspoken about him is that he was a guy that was a Power 4 transfer who did not really have much tape. And those are hard guys to gamble on because if they don't have college tape to judge, it's really hard to project how good that guy is going to be. How many times have you seen a guy go from a Power 4 where he was a backup and didn't play very much and go to another school and then blow up right away and just kill it, even though he had very, very few snaps? It's not something you see a lot. So I say that to say that everybody's trying to find that edge and exploit it. Once we get to a system in the next year or two, however long it takes to kind of settle this thing, and everybody understands what we're doing and everybody's playing by the same baseline rules and guidelines, then maybe you start to see some pecking orders established. And also, of course, that has to do with coaching changes too. Is like if coaches are moving around a ton, then that can change as well. But I think as long as we're in this era, I think it's going to be wide open for most of the teams in the conference.
Sam Kahn, theathletic.com, with us on 365 Sports. What, in your opinion, when you get to Big 12 Media Days in a couple of weeks, less than that now, what are the 2 or 3 biggest storylines?
Oh, well, of course, it's always who's the favorite, who's going to be number one on the preseason poll. And I think you got a lot of candidates. We've talked a lot about Texas Tech. Arizona State made the playoff. I think they're a candidate for it. Iowa State, they bring back Rocco Beck. I think they're a candidate for it. And then you've got the next tier. You got Kansas State. Is Utah going to bounce back? That Utah, to me, is one of the more intriguing teams in this group. I didn't mention BYU, by the way, who, by the way, flirted with the playoff. They're in the mix also. But Utah, to me, is one of the more intriguing teams because of the transfer of Devin Dampier and the offensive coordinator they hired from New Mexico, who Dampier followed. So to me, those types of transfers really work out well. We saw it with Bailey Zappi at Western Kentucky and Zach Kitley. We've seen it in other instances. OU's trying it with John Mateer and Ben Arbuckle. I'm curious to see how that works out with Utah because they're a team that we thought a year ago, a lot of us picked them as the favorite coming in. They had such a bad year. Obviously, they dealt with the quarterback injuries. I think you always think a Kyle Whittingham team is going to be tough. They're going to be good defensively. They're going to be able to run the ball. But now you had a guy like Dampier, who's a little bit of a magician back there. He can be a little bit of an adventure when he throws the ball, but he's a tremendous athlete. He ran for over 1,000 yards last year, and he's going to have the offensive familiarity with the scheme that he's going into. So, and Utah's a team that doesn't run the quarterback a lot. So I'm really curious to see how does that fit into their ethos and what they do schematically. How does that look for them? And then the teams on the bottom, the teams that we're not talking about, your Oklahoma States, are they going to bounce back? I'm really excited to see what Hoss Haney has to offer. I thought he was a tremendous recruit. Really interested to see what he has. I'm interested to see Kansas State and Avery Johnson. Is he ready to take the next step as a passer? So there's a lot of different storylines, and to make this conference so fun is that it really is truly wide open. There's a lot to like across the league.
Sam, what do you make of Trev Alberts at A&M mentioning that, because they got this big deal with Playfly and all that they hope to have the enhanced NIL deals that would clear the clearinghouse? It doesn't surprise me that A&M's one of the first people in the line going, listen, Our NIL deals are going to be the best NIL deals. So just know that before it starts.
So how does that work? Because I thought it was supposed to be a valid business with a valid business purpose. I guess Play Fly Sports is a valid business. So
there you go.
I guess it passes that smell test. But this is when we talked about in recent weeks about how programs are going to try to get around the cap. This is one of those ways. And so you start, I think it's very, it's very prescient for Texas A&M when they did this rights deal with Playfly. This is kind of what they had their eye on. And it took a little bit for us to see it. But now that they're trying to work it, if it can work, then it's pretty smart. Then guess what's going to happen? You're going to see a lot of other schools try to do the same thing. So I think as we're going to probably need a year into the clearinghouse to understand what works and what doesn't, what deals are going to get approved and what's not. And once we get to that point, then we kind of figure it all out. But in the meantime, programs that want to win at the highest level, that have the money, that have the want to, they're going to push and do it, whatever they can to make it happen. And it doesn't surprise me one bit. It's kind of the story of college football.
Which of the programs, Utah or Oklahoma State, have the most to win or lose this year after the years they had in 2024?
I think Oklahoma State, just because we're not used to them being down and certainly not used to them being down for an extended period. I think you could say the same about Utah and Kyle Whittingham, but I think Whittingham's legacy is pretty secure, and I think he's going to be able to go out on his own terms. Mike Gundy, remember, we were having this standoff in December that everybody was kind of watching with bated breath about his contract. And so I don't know that he will be able to go out on his own terms if they really struggle this year, especially if the rival program over there that went 6-7 last year, if they go win 9 to 10 games in their second year in the SEC. You guys know how it works down here with Texas A&M. When one program does really well and the other's not, it kind of ramps up the pressure a little bit, even if they're not in the same conference. So I think Oklahoma State, to me, has a lot more to lose because they work so hard to get to a certain level of program and to be consistent. And you just, if they're not good this year, if they don't make a bowl this year, to me, you kind of feel that slipping away. And I don't know how easy it is to get back into it if you are not going to be a major player in NIL or rev share. Certainly they're going to be probably funding at a full rev share cap. But if you're not a major player and being able to acquire talent at a high clip, and they've never been a program that's really recruited top flight talent consistently, then it makes it that much harder for the next guy if there is a next guy.
Yeah, Oklahoma State had some people that they recruited, players that were high level, but they for the most part found diamonds in the rough. Mm-hmm. They found the guys that ended up being tremendous. Their development was fantastic for many years with Gundy. And I wonder, golly, you hate to see either one of them fail because they've been so good, so long, so consistently.
Yeah, and the other reason I say that I think it's Oklahoma State too is we also know what the succession plan at Utah is, right? Morgan Scalley is the next coach there. They've named him the coach in waiting. He hasn't gone anywhere yet. And so you figure he's gonna step in if Whittingham retires after this year or whenever that may be, and you know what that looks like. So I think Oklahoma State's the one. You're right though; they have developed talent and they have been able to be that type of program. But I think it also becomes a philosophical question in a way: is can you be that program that finds the diamonds in the rough and develops them and keeps them? Because that's the thing is for 2 decades, they were that program, but player movement wasn't what it is now. And now that player movement is what it is, if you find that diamond in the rough and you turn him into an All-American, can you keep him? Are you going to be able to? And that's the challenge that programs that are not at the very, very top financially or not the blue bloods are going to face.
I would, and now look, Mike Gundy's, well established and accomplished. And I do get the feeling that if he were to get fired, he'd be mad because he got fired and couldn't go out on his own terms, but he wouldn't miss it as much as he thinks, given that all the stuff that's changed. But an Oklahoma State coaching search would be fascinating to me in this new era in the Big 12 where there's not a premier program in the league. Everybody's on the same footing. How do you sell that? How do you it would be really fascinating to me. Or what's their budget for a coach? Right. All of those things.
What's your budget for players?
Yeah, exactly.
That's the first question. If I'm a coach and you're trying to hire me, it doesn't matter what program it is, what is my roster budget? That's my first question. Because if I don't have players, I can't win. And if I can't win, you're going to fire me in 2-3 years. So that's the first question you have. And then it becomes, what's my staff salary budget? What's my facilities look like? And so on. But the first question to me for everybody is, what's my budget? And I know from a rev share cap standpoint, it's going to be mostly in the same range. There's going to be a little differences for programs that maybe give a little bit more to basketball or something like that. But again, when we talk about outside of the cap, if there are programs trying to do that, are you a program that's going to do that? Because if you are, then you're going to be attracting more coaches. If you're not, then there's a little bit of a ceiling there.
Yeah, it's not the revenue sharing, it's the other part. And how much of that, again, as you know, we don't know what's going to be approved. The $600 deal, there's going to be hundreds of thousands of dollars in NIL deals, and maybe, who knows, in the millions, 1 or 2 million when it comes to elite players. I hope we get a chance. The NFL, when a player signs a contract, everybody knows how long it is and also how much it is. How much was the bonus? And I if we're going to go all pro, I guess, in college football, I've lost that battle. I hope we get to see that, but I wonder if we ever will.
Oh, I would love to. I can promise you there's going to be a lot of Freedom of Information Act requests filed after July 1st. when the public schools start directly paying the players. I would guess, and we don't know this yet, but I would guess the schools are going to try to shield those deals, citing federal student privacy laws. I don't know if that'll hold up. It's certainly going to be something we're all going to try to figure out. But I agree. Yeah, the transparency. And the thing is when you talk to people in the industry, coaches, administrators, yes, they all play secret because they don't want others to know. But if you really get them down to brass tacks, I think a lot of them would admit they would appreciate the transparency, because then everyone would know. Everyone would know how much everybody's paying for certain positions, what the highest paid players look like, what everybody's roster budget looks like. And just like we do in the NFL, we know what every team's payroll looks like. We know what every NBA team's payroll looks like, Major League Baseball, you name it. So I think a lot of coaches, administrators, school leadership would appreciate that type of transparency, but only if it's with everybody, not if it's conference by conference or school by school. So that's, I think, what prevents us from getting there. I would hope, like I said, like you, I would hope that we get to that point at some point. Maybe we will, who knows? But, college sports has never been the most open. It's been more cloak and dagger in this sport than just about any other. So if I had to bet on it, I would bet we're not going to find out as much.
I wonder if there's going to come a time, if in fact these deals are approved, no matter what they are, if that also then leads to what you see in the NFL. If a deal, like for example, Myles Garrett signs an X amount of contract, and if you're an outside edge rusher or someone like him, a defensive end, et cetera, will that then increase how much money? You know what I mean by that? A quarterback gets $35 million, then the next guy's going to get $36 million, and the next thing you know, and you might have a few of the Patrick Mahomes great deals where it's a hometown discount, but he's still got a lot. You wonder if that would increase in a rapid fashion what might happen when paying players in college.
Yeah, I think you would just have it just like in any of the pro sports is, if you believe you're the best at your position, then you want to be the highest paid at your position. If you believe you're the best quarterback, then you're going to want a deal that's better than Carson Beck or Darian Mensah or whoever the highest paid quarterback is in the country. And so, yeah, I think that would happen without question. If all the deals started to become public, I think there's no doubt. And right now, here's the thing that's interesting about it is that schools themselves and agents do have this data. If you're, let's just say Texas Tech, they know how much they paid everybody. And the agencies who have multiple clients, they know how much schools have paid there. So those people know, but they just don't know what everyone else is doing. They one agency may not know what another agency is doing. Texas Tech may not know what Oklahoma State is doing, so to speak, because they only know with the ones that they deal with. And they call, these guys talk and they ask around and stuff. But again, you take some of that information with a grain of salt. So again, it's cloak and dagger, just like when we were paying players under the table, it was cloak and dagger. So it's even though it's above board, there's still a cloak and dagger nature to it. And I think that in mystery is interesting, but yes, I would agree that it would be nice to know all that, just because I think it would just provide a little bit more clarity for everybody, which I think is good.
Sam, thank you, buddy. Appreciate it. Theathletic.com, Sam. Come with us next week. I know you're off. And we'll have a day or two off again with the holiday 4th of July Friday. And then we will see you in Frisco, Texas, my friend. We'll see you then. Thank you.
Take care.
Sam Kahn, theathletic.com, with us on 365 Sports. When we come back, Shahan Jeraja, CBS Sports. He's next. This is 365 Sports. Speaking of the Big 12 Media Days, there will be events for Baylor alums in the Dallas and Fort Worth area. In fact, if you think about it, I'm sure that a lot of the Big 12 alums and boosters, donors, et cetera, will have certain gatherings in the Dallas and Fort Worth area. So Baylor alumni fan engagement, Doug Furch and Paul Thorpe, they're already setting up with Dave Aranda speaks to alums and boosters and answers questions. It's kind of a relaxed atmosphere. But all schools that have alums and boosters, and a lot of the Big 12 schools that have alums and boosters in the Dallas and Fort Worth area will have theirs as well. So contact your alumni fan engagement department. Baylor also will be having their pregame tailgate party at the George Bush Museum, the library, on the campus of SMU when Baylor plays there in early September. For more information, go to baylor.edu.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
Don Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. Don Humidor in the Townwood Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
Ready to take your business to the next level? Carrion Solutions has got you covered. We deliver world-class IT consulting, including Quest On Demand and Migration Manager, M365 and Exchange migrations, Active Directory assessments, security hardening, and Windows Server upgrades. Our experts specialize in consulting, monitoring, support, and managed IT services. We promise vision, professionalism, and unbeatable value. Satisfaction guaranteed. If you're not happy, we make it right. Remember the name Carrion Solutions. For more info, email sales@carrionsolutions.com or visit carrionsolutions.com. That's CARRION solutions.com. Carrion Solutions, IT success guaranteed.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
This is 365 Sports. Text us at 254-339-1122. The text line is sponsored by Riverbend's Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
Last football season, Shahan Jeraja from CBS Sports became a weekly guest with us. And before we get to his segment that he wrote 5,000 words on his trip to Lubbock, how about this note from earlier today, that he has been named the 2025 Edward Aschoff Rising Star Award, Football Writers Association of America. And congratulations, he's the former ESPN reporter who passed away at a very, very young age in his early 30s. Shahan, congratulations. That's got to mean a great deal to you.
It really does. And listen, you guys have been there just about since the beginning, since I was quite literally a teenager. So I know that it probably makes me feel a little old that I've kind of been able to do what I've been able to do in my career. But I appreciate all of your guys' support, and it's really cool to jump back on with you guys right now.
How did you get into the business? What was it that this is what you wanted to do in your life?
Well, it's funny. I was a basketball fan more than anything growing up. And, so I would watch all sorts of games. My parents didn't really get it. They weren't big sports people. But I joined the school newspaper, the Baylor Lariat, as a sophomore when I was at Baylor. And it was more than just like the sports of it. It was the reporting of it. It was getting to be around. It was getting to talk to people, kind of be a part of the action to a certain extent. And, I'm really blessed and lucky. One thing kind of led to another. And, coming out, I thought that I would maybe do a little bit more of a beat writing type path. But Dave Campbell's Sex Football came about, and it's really just set me on such a wonderful path. And I'm lucky things worked out the way that they did.
So I want to ask you now. You didn't write. We'll ask you about Cody Campbell in a second. But with everything that's changed in the last couple of days, with Texas State, with now Louisiana Tech potentially, do you think these are good moves for these schools, or do you think they're just kind of like, well, I mean,
Well, I think everybody understands that there's a musical chairs going on right now. And ultimately, you just want to be in a stable place where there's a seat at the table when the music eventually stops. And, I think the calculus of all of this is quite interesting, right? Because, for example, we saw the Pac-12 go after schools that are in the AAC. And the AAC schools have kind of said, well, we think maybe we're more stable where we're at. Well, now you see them, of course, going after a Sun Belt school, and you see the Sun Belt going after a Conference USA school. And I think everybody's trying to figure out what is the best long-term situation and long-term place to be in. Certainly, I think for Texas State, having only moved up less than 15 years ago, the idea of being part of even a diminished Pac-12, but one that has a lot of really quality programs as well, I think that's enticing to them. And look, I think that the other thing too is that with a lot of these schools in Texas, again, I was covering them maybe close to 10 years ago. A bunch of them were not expecting to be in a position to be buyers of realignment. So I think that everybody's embracing that position just a little bit.
So, Shahan, before we get into the piece on Texas Tech, based on just reading your tweets and some of that, you seem pretty overwhelmed by the reaction in the best kind of way possible, mind you. But just what have the last 24 hours or so been like in terms of the reaction you received, and how much did it exceed maybe your expectations going in?
Well, listen, I put out a tweet kind of teasing that I had a really good piece coming on Texas Tech, but those sort of things can backfire sometimes. Sometimes you drop something and people don't like it as much as maybe you hope that they would. I felt like maybe I was overselling it a little bit, but it's been so amazing. For me, right? Like, I'm somebody who obviously is from the Metroplex and from the big city. I haven't spent a lot of time out in more rural areas, and people obviously are very territorial and they're sensitive. They want to make sure that the places that they know and love are respected. And look, I mean, I think that we can add to that, right? Like, I'm of a background that you don't necessarily see a whole lot in West Texas. So I know that there was a high bar for me to clear to try to make sure that people felt understood and respected. And so I put a lot of work into that, not just on the trip that I made to West Texas last week, but this has been, I think, a long-term investment that I've done in trying to make sure that I understand the people and places of college football the best way that I can. And so to see people, I think, have such a positive reaction, and so many people come to me and be like, you know what, I really feel like you got my place, the place where I care about. It's a special feeling. And, again, the nice thing about writing one of the best things you've ever written is that, you can write something even better the next time.
Yeah, no, I think the reaction speaks for itself. I really enjoy the article. And I was somebody who lived out in Lubbock for a couple years. Now, mind you, it was like 10 plus years ago. So a lot of the stuff is, much newer and different. But I had a better understanding when people would go like, Lubbock, why the hell would you go there? What we're recruiting? I kind of got it, because once you're out there, you get it. How long did it take for you to kind of get what Lubbock was about? How many trips and just kind of when did that moment you think happened for you?
Yeah, well, I've been out there probably 4 or 5 times over the course of really most of the last decade. I told some people over there, like I covered Cliff Kingsbury out there. I covered Matt Wells out there, now Joey McGuire. And I think for me, something that really helped clarify, first of all, those feelings was going from Matt Wells to Joey McGuire, and Joey McGuire so effectively kind of casting himself as the mayor of Lubbock, the governor of West Texas, being a visible and vocal face of the program, and the way that people responded to that. And the other thing, too, that I've always heard from Texas Tech people and from Lubbock people and West Texans is, hey, this place is everything you need. And, you hear that, right? Like, I mean, that's something that people, say about Dallas, people say about all sorts of other places. And so I really wanted to get more of an understanding of the lifestyle of these places. Most of my trips to Lubbock have been spent around Texas Tech and around the campus. I really made a concerted effort to go into downtown, to go into the new developments, to really see what's out there. And again, I don't know what I expected to find, but I think that it was really transformative to me to just get the opportunity to kind of see neighborhoods, for example, that looked like they could be in Dallas or Austin or Houston, to see coffee shops, to see bars and wineries that are, really up there with some of the most interesting ones that I've been to. And I think that, again, look, there's an understanding that if you're living in Lubbock, like you're not in Dallas, you're not in New York, right? Like there is that understanding, but you have everything that you need here. And I wanted to try to communicate that in my piece.
You mentioned that perhaps your favorite moment in the entire trip was being told Lubbock used to end at 82nd Street, going there now and seeing dang sprouts instead of cotton fields.
I mean, I did not expect that, right? Like, especially if you are around Texas Tech's campus in the downtown, like, again, it's not run down by any means, but it's just, you wouldn't think that there's Lululemons and that there's Sprouts and that there's all these sorts of places that in a very well-off area, in a very well-off, very developed, very modern type development that you see out in Lubbock. And, again, you hear all this stuff about, especially, I think there's kind of a moment right now in America when it comes to mid-sized towns. I think that in some cases, people are getting a little tired of the giant cities, of the Dallas, Austin, Houston. And, I think that even in my time that I was in Waco, I got an opportunity to see some of that development and see what Waco looked like in 2012 versus what it looks like now in 2025. And I think that Lubbock, being sort of a metropolitan area to itself out in West Texas, I think has really been transformed in so many ways by that level of development. And again, one of the stats that I kind of saw was like the median age of the person coming here is under 30 years old right now. They're retaining people who go to Texas Tech who traditionally would have gone to maybe one of these better or bigger, rather, not better, metros. And I think that ultimately, like, that says a lot about the story of where this place is heading.
The biggest thing was always, like you said, like Lubbock was, they used that against them. I think if you get over the distance, you're going to be fine there, right? Especially if you're getting paid like you are.
Well, and look, here's the reality, right? I mean, it is 5 hours into not very much.
That is real. Yeah, that is very real.
To get there, right? And so, there's a little bit of like mentally, you kind of like, I don't know. It's a weird experience driving because, I'm used to driving.
It's isolating. It's a little isolating.
It's a little isolating. Yeah. And when I drove there the first night too, I had to get there a little quicker because the sun was going down. I was just like, let me just stay on the highway, like on the interstate. Like, let me not try to get too cute with it. Right. But once you get there, it really is true. It's a thing that they repeat, but it's got everything you need. You've got entertainment, you've got art, you've got food and drink, you've got all sorts of things out there. Even if the reason, that Lubbock is called the hub city is because you have access to all the different wings of West Texas, from the ranches and canyons of the Panhandle down to oil country, over to the American Southwest and to the Metroplex. So I think that, again, especially when you're from the city and when you're not from there, you kind of view the idea of access a little differently than when you are out there. And I think that was one misconception I really wanted to address in my piece is, like you said, there's nothing more that you really need than what's out there. And I think that that Lubbock, especially as a city, has done a tremendous job of making sure that what's there really serves the young people who are coming there.
So you did a nice job of balancing, kind of exploring, Lubbock and also obviously the investments that Texas Tech has made with Cody Campbell leading the charge, although there's Womble and various others as well. And also getting into, like, there's a pressure there, Shahan, right? I mean, it's all fun promoting throughout the offseason and talking about the big deals, but at some point, like, you know, you got to go out and win games, and they acknowledge that, whether it's James Blanchard or Joey McGuire. How much of a pressure do you feel like is on this year, though, specifically? Like, is it a boom or bust in 2025, or is this like more of a, it's going to have some time to breathe, but they've got to show some results pretty quickly? Like, kind of how do you view that level of pressure they're facing there?
Well, I think it's interesting, right? I, as a Texan, always like try to push back a little bit on the oil metaphors because they're just a little too obvious, right? But it's hard not to make those metaphors with this particular team at this particular time. They know that this offseason was a boom time. And they know that they have to maximize what's there while they have the opportunity. You know, obviously I get into it much more in the story over at cbssports.com, but essentially Cody Campbell, their top booster, went to the table in July 2024 and told their general manager and head coach and athletic director, hey, you know what? This might be the last opportunity that we have to really invest in this kind of way before the rules change. So there's an understanding that this could be a once in a lifetime opportunity. And another comparison that I got a lot was Joey McGuire talked about his 2006 Cedar Hill High School team, which was, by the way, his fourth season as a head coach at Cedar Hill, a place that had never won a playoff game in Texas high school football. And he leads them to a state championship. And what happens after that 2006 team is that Cedar Hill sees football differently, from the kids who are growing up there, to the businesses investing in it. Everybody understands this is a place and a program where special things can happen. That's the goal of this season. That's why they put so much into this roster at this time. So look, I mean, there's an understanding that sometimes the ball bounces the wrong way. I mean, there were 4 teams that finished tied for first place in the Big 12 last year. Only 2 of them could go to the conference championship game. It's not a title or bust mindset necessarily, but it's a, hey, there are no excuses. We have all of the players and personnel and investment that we could possibly need. We better be at least in a position to compete.
Did the history that Cody had, along with Sellers, his good friend John Sellers, with Double Eagle Energy, also bring that ability to not gamble? I guess it was that the gamble, because they hit the market when it was down, I believe, is what your story is talking about, and they've made billions. We know that. Is that also a little bit of what he's doing now?
100%. And it's not just attacking when the market is down, but it's seeing a market that maybe people don't understand exists as yet. And so, you know, for people who don't know, Cody Campbell and John Sellers, they do not come from oil. They are not legacy people. They don't come from those types of families. The way that they made their oil money was they essentially went driving through through West Texas, the Permian Basin, looking for small leases and buying up mineral rights that they could then package together and sell to bigger companies when they struck it big. And so it's much more a story of land and speculation than it is a story of drilling for them. And I think that Cody Campbell especially sees this moment as a moment of potential speculation, that, you know what, nobody knows how the money's going to work heading forward. Nobody knows how the roster is going to work heading forward. And on top of that, by the way, one of the things that's actually kind of a blessing in disguise is that a lot of programs spent a crazy amount of money in maybe the first or second year of the transfer portal era. So them coming in at the 4th or 5th year of the transfer portal era actually means that they were able to be a top bidder in the market in a way that some of these other programs have not been. And so I think that, again, they view this as a very unique opportunity, and one that very well might not be replicated in future seasons.
Shahan Jeraja, CBS Sports, with us on 365 Sports.
Yeah, I guess the key for them, like, again, there's not, I know it seems like it, but there's not a Cody Campbell for every school. You know, there's not like these guys for every school. So they have an advantage in that, yeah, like, you know, A&M has a bunch, Texas has, you know, a bunch, but, you know, when you just go around just even their own conference, you know, that they don't really have to worry about, you know, outspending another collective all that much, do they?
No, 100%. And the other thing that I want to bring to the table, because there are schools that have multiple billionaires, but I think that one of the reasons, and look, I think it's very easy to tell this story as, well, they spent a bunch of money and got a good football team. That's the story. And it's not the story, but I do think that there's another piece to this, which is the organization of it all. Like I mentioned, Cody Campbell has been as forward as any really booster in all of college athletics in terms of trying to create an organization and a structure. And I get into it in the piece, but he, again, going to the table last year and saying, we want to prioritize this window. He ensured that their general managers and their staff and their scouting staff were preparing for the moment that any potential kid could enter the portal. So they'd have grades on them, so they'd have valuations on them, so they'd be prepared, so they could be quick, so that they could get kids on campus while other schools were trying to figure out, are we going to offer this kid? Are we going to offer him an NIL deal? So it's not just the amount of money that they threw around, although that's a big part of the equation. It's also they were more prepared than anybody else for this moment. And it was a major market inefficiency. Also, by the way, because they did not try to go and get a quarterback or get a wide receiver primarily. They were really trying to build in the trenches and had, I think, a really good strategy that allowed them to maximize the money they did put into the field as well.
Has covering them for this story at all altered or changed your outlook on them as far as the season goes?
Yeah, I think that there's a couple pieces of it, right? So first of all, the thing that I think changed it the most, and I got a chance to talk to this kid when I was down there, was when they added David Bailey, the Stanford transfer, who, by the way, everybody in the country wanted. He's a potential first-round pick as an edge rusher. And I think that he took them from being a very good pass rush to the best pass rush in the Big 12. I think that also you look at what they've done on the offensive line. I mean, it's funny. Until last season with Baron Morton, who was hurt for a lot of the year, by the way, they hadn't had a quarterback start the entire season since Patrick Mahomes in 2016. They've dealt with injuries every single year, and so they invested a lot of money to make sure that their offensive line is going to be up there with some of the best in the Big 12. Now, of course, they have to integrate 20 plus kids into their roster. They're going to have a lot of new players. Taj Brooks, who was their best player last year at running back, is gone. So there are definitely downsides to this as well. But I do think that that after going there and talking to them and seeing the way that they communicate, seeing the way that they're coached, seeing the way that they bought in, this is a team that I think is on the short list for being the favorite to win the Big 12 in 2025.
We have a nice chunk of fans from all the Big 12 cities, whether it's BYU, Provo, or whoever else, Oklahoma State, etc. But we have an even larger chunk at times of Texas Tech alums, boosters, fans, and whoever else. Laura Weiss, what makes Lubbock great is the people who live here. I lived in Austin for over 40 years, and there is no comparison with regards to the people. And she actually even added later on, the reason she went to Lubbock and Tech early on in her life was because she wanted to get away from people. So you have that distance, and yet again, it's a little bit closer of a flight than some people realize.
No, 100%. And actually, that was one thing that their athletic director, Kirby Hoka, also mentioned as well is, hey, it's actually pretty easy to get here in terms of we have flights that go through Dallas, Houston, Austin, Phoenix, all these cities, right? Like you can get here, and once you're here, you're here. You can enjoy this place. You can have, like you said, sort of there's an unpretentious culture to it that I know is something that a lot of Texans really appreciate about places like West Texas. So, no, I mean, it's a very special place. It's a place that obviously I think people are very invested in. They take pride in being from there. And I think that, when you talk to another West Texan, they know what it means to be a West Texan.
Paul, not going to ask about the barbecue at the end of the story.
I mean, look, he and I already talked about it on Twitter.
Oh, okay. You already had that. Okay, I missed that.
Yeah, on Twitter we did. I mean, we didn't talk about it here, but I mean, what are they? Evie Marie's is third, fourth?
I think they're seventh right now on the list. Yes. No,
Yeah.
it was incredible stuff. So I got a 2-meat plate. So just for context. So I came in Sunday night. I had to leave Tuesday to get back home. And Evie Mays is closed on Mondays. So I was like, and on top of that, look, here's the reality, right? Like we talked about, the drive can be a little mind numbing when you make it. So I wanted to make sure that I was making it during daylight and not hitting the worst of Dallas rush hour. It opens at 11. So I was there right at 11 and I'm like, I'm getting this to go. And so, you know, I went in there, got my 2-meat plate. The ribs are incredible. They're some of the best ribs that I've ever had from a Texas barbecue place. But yeah, I mentioned at the end of the story, I didn't successfully bring a silverware or a napkin with me when I decided to leave. And so, you know what, you do what you got to do. I'm not going to wait 5 hours to eat my barbecue in the car. So I just went to all hands in.
Hey, caveman stuff. That's how,
exactly.
Look, the first barbecue was not eaten with a fork.
Did you get anything on your shirt?
No, I'm pretty good actually. I'm pretty good about that stuff. I don't know. And thankfully I mentioned in the story as well. It was like a perfect sort of bookend to the story. I think in some ways I got stuck behind, of all things, a giant propeller for a wind turbine that was trying to turn into a site. So we were stopped for like 12 minutes. And so I was like, this is perfect timing. I'm just going to jump in and do it.
If you ever, those things are huge. Have you ever seen a caravan of them going down a highway or whatever? They'll shut down the highway. Yeah, those things 100%. Are huge.
We had, there were 3 of them turning in. So it was like the giant turbine was built, but there were no blades on it at that point. So they had the 3 blades all trying to turn in. And look, you can't exactly easily turn in with a semi-truck with a giant, flat, long blade. So it was really cool to kind of see in person. And, you know, I kind of tied it into the story a little bit, right? Like it kind of was emblematic to me in some ways of, hey, you know what? West Texas is also trying their own ways to move forward.
Yeah, they are. One of the best stories, and we've had Joey talk about this before, when he first was able to a couple of years into the job at Texas Tech, when Debbie was on her way home and she was upset because they were 3-5, his wife, and she was playing mahjong. And she said, you need to start winning games. Like the pressure of, hey, you got this opportunity, now do something with it.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, that's, I think, the piece that people like don't realize. And actually, you know, talking to James Blanchard, he got into this a little bit as well, is like, again, when you're a high school coach and you're in a good situation, really ain't many good reasons to leave, right? Because you're set there, you're probably not going to be fired over a bad season, maybe over a bad run, but like you have some implicit credibility. Like Joey McGuire was able to wait until his son Garrett graduated from Cedar Hill before he worried about moving on to a new job. It's not really like that at the college level. And, you know, if you have a bad season, it doesn't matter if the season before you beat Texas and Oklahoma for the first time in 50 years or whatever it was, you can find yourself on the hot seat. And you know what? Like I even asked Joey McGuire directly. He could have had, you know, because again, they have 3 straight winning seasons. It's the first run of 3 straight conference winning records since the Southwest Conference folded. Like they have not had this kind of success consistently. And I kind of asked him, I'm like, look, Joe, you could do this for 10 more years and have, you know, pretty good above average seasons forever, and, you know, ultimately get to retire on your terms and all this sort of stuff. If this goes bad, you might be looking for a job next year. So why do it? And I mean, he was just like, look, I want to embrace the fact that this has not been done here. And I think I'm the guy who can do it.
Yeah, there's pressure that comes with it. There's pressure anyway to college football. Shahan, thank you, man. The response, I've seen a lot of what you've said. The response was overwhelming for you. Great story. Every college town has a great history, and there's always some great stories. Shahan with a nice job, really nice job. Thank you for your time, buddy. Congratulations as well on the Ashoff Award. That's awesome. Good for you.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, Shahan Jeraja with us on 365 Sports. This is a note from Barry Crawford, and I'm going to say the name of this river perhaps wrong. The windmill towers come up the Verdigris River via towboat from France, where they are built. 9 sections per barge, and offloaded at Tulsa, port of Katoa, and loaded on semis. That's a little bit more than I thought. And Barry Crawford, thank you for sharing that information. All right, when I've said this before, and same thing going into Oklahoma. You go over some of those mountains, and you're on the highway headed up to Oklahoma City or whatever, and you come over one of these hills, these turbines. It's like somebody's invading the country. It's like some transformers up on mountaintops when I first saw them. Now you have them in Mart, Texas, like on your way if you're headed to Mart, Texas on Highway 6.
We need more. We need more. We've got to – I'll get into how we need to diversify our energy policy, but I think most people would be bored.
Yeah, I think they'd check out.
Yeah, I think they would.
But. All right. Appreciate Shahan Jeraja. Thanks to Sam Khan as well. Around the corner, we'll have Craig's Off the Radar, but more to get to, and we will. This is 365 Sports. Don Chubador Coffee Beans in the Town West Shopping Center off Valley Mills, in between Valley Mills and Richland Drive in Waco. 48-foot walk-in humidor, Macanudo, Ashton, Padron, Cohiba, Rocky Patel, Artur Fuente, Romeo and Julieta, My Father, all of the great brands and more around the world cigars. Plus, they have Vita Dreams, a CBD. You take one or two, you learn which ones or how much you need to take to allow you when you lay down in bed, you don't toss and turn. Next thing you know, you wake up and you feel great. And I've taken them for a long time. No matter if it's one gummy or two, whether I'm traveling or I have to get up early the next morning or just during the regular parts of the day or week, I've never felt like I've taken something that alters me, if you know what I mean. It's not like I feel, whoa, like a little bit wobbly or drugged. It's not the way it works, not the way this CBD product works called Vita Dreams. So if you do lose 15, 20, 30 minutes or an hour a night, more often than not, and you want to be able to go lay down in bed, fall asleep, and wake up feeling rested, Vita Dreams is a great option for you. Inside Don Chubador in the Town West Shopping Center between Richland Drive and Valley Mills in Waco.
Allen Samuels House of Travel is a full-service travel agency with highly experienced travel consultants plus support staff with over a combined 150 years in the travel business. They are ready to take care of any travel situation for you, your family, and your business, and with the kind of knowledge to complete a seamless itinerary trip start to finish. They will search for the best deal to accommodate your budget from air to cars, ship to shore, hotel, and even meeting space. Name a destination and they've been there. They know the places to go, and international and missionary travel is one of their unique specialties. Allen Samuels House of Travel, celebrating 50 years in business. Call Connie, Sherry, Linda, or Bambi at 254-776-2560 or find them on Facebook or at houseoftravelwaco.com. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, a wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trust. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Established in 2007 and independently owned, Alliance Bank Central Texas is committed to helping families and businesses meet their financial goals. From their tellers to their board of directors, they know the importance of superior service and competitive products. Customers have confidence knowing that their financial needs are in good hands. It's your bank, Alliance Bank Central Texas, with 2 Waco locations, 4721 Bosque Boulevard and 191 Archway Drive on Highway 84, and at alliancebanktexas.com. Member FDIC and equal housing lender.
Want to send a message to the show? Jump in the Rudy's Country Store and Barbecue chat room.
This is just a note for me personally, is that Matt Brown, who joined us yesterday at a lot of the things, the comings and goings, the Big Sky, the WAC, the American, the Sun Belt, all of that, the United Conference, and what's about to be a part of a new name change. But when I saw part of his, underneath his headline, it said, "Goodbye WAC, hello UAC," which is the name change. I think Arizona State for a long time was a part of the WAC.
Were they?
Think so. I also know they might have had a time period. You want to look that up? Well, I think there was a time period when they were perhaps apart. I think back in the days of Frank Kush.
All right, hold on.
60s or so, 70s.
Okay, these are the current members, affiliate members.
But I bring that up because we've seen so many changes.
Okay. Arizona and Arizona State were members of the WAC.
For a long time, I believe.
Yeah, they both left in 1978.
Is that when they joined the Pac-12?
Yeah.
Okay. The reason I brought that up, we've seen a lot of these changes with schools that have changed conferences and all of that. That's just been going on now for quite some time. Even back Arkansas when they left for the SEC and left the Southwest Conference. But I was like, for me, I was thinking, damn, the WAC conference used to be, if you took the major conferences, they were right there on the edge. They weren't the Big Ten. They weren't the ACC. They weren't the SEC or even the Pac-12 or the time Southwest Conference and Big 8. But the WAC was pretty darn good.
Hey, there are 5 former WAC teams in the Big 12. Can you name the other 3? I bet you can.
Well, you mentioned Arizona State.
Yes.
I would say, hold on. Colorado?
Nope.
Really?
No.
BYU was.
Yes.
No question. BYU was. TCU.
Yep.
Was that during Patterson's run?
Mm-hmm.
I think they were. And
they left in 2001, so early Patterson.
I don't know who the next one would be or the last one. Obviously, I'm not saying Utah.
It is Utah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that was back when they were pretty dicey, especially when Patterson started to make had some great runs. I don't know if they were a part of the WAC or was it the Mountain West when they went unbeaten and beat Wisconsin in the Rose Bowl?
Yeah. SMU used to be in the WAC. So
yeah,
it's been a rite of passage for quite a bit of teams.
Yep. And now all of a sudden people 10 years from now are going to go, what, who was it? Who was in that? Just like we just tried to do.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So a part of the NBA draft last night was this nugget from Legion Hoops. Ron Harper, pretty darn good player. Really good player. Never was like a multi-time. I don't know how many times if he even made the All-Star team, but he was really good. Made $35 million in his career. By the way, that's really good. His son, Dylan, gets a $56 million rookie contract. That is how much things have changed when it comes to money, contracts, and the numbers.
Yeah, I mean, you could also do this with basically any job, I think, to some extent. It's just regular inflation and cost of living goes up and everything. So I think there's a large part of that doing this. But it's also, there's bigger, badder TV deals now than there ever was before and far more being pumped into the NBA. People want to poo-poo all over their ratings. And even the other day, pointing out that they had a pretty nice number. I knew that the outkicks and the general attackers of the NBA would go on to point out why that was still bad, and it ended up it's the worst Game 7 since this, and the only reason it had this was Game 7, and for my point being, for all the detractors when it comes to the NBA, the money's never been better.
No.
So for all you want to say about the TV ratings and the regular season doesn't matter and all that, and I agree. I don't watch the regular season. I mean, post Luka now, I have no desire whatsoever, but I'm also not rooting for the demise of the league for political reasons or because I don't like basketball so much so that I don't want people to play basketball. I don't have an axe to grind there. And so when I see all of those types of reports, yes, it's true. Their ratings could be better in some cases. This could be better. The game itself could be better, but the money could not possibly be better than it is. So, until that changes, I think they're just fine. And yeah, I mean, this is really cool just to have a second generation guy follow in his father's footsteps and go on to surpass him already in the amount of money he's made. That's pretty crazy because for as much as, there is inflation and all that, as I point out, I mean, one contract versus an entire career is still pretty crazy to put it in that perspective of you played for as long as Ron Harper did and for franchises like the Lakers and the Bulls and so on, and your son walks in and before he's even attended a camp to a preseason practice, he's already standing to make more than you did your entire career. That's pretty nuts.
And that's guaranteed, the NBA. Now, more and more of the other leagues, of course, have guaranteed deals. Baseball, NBA, NFL's getting that way. They used to never have guaranteed contracts. At least it was very rare.
They only have one now, and they got in trouble
with
for
Deshaun.
all that. But every time someone says like the NBA's falling apart or like all of these things, I would remind them that every sports media company that could bid on the NBA bid on it just a year ago to try to get it. As a matter of fact, TNT was so mad that they didn't get to keep it that they sued the NBA to try to keep it. They lost their part to Amazon and NBC, but if it was so terrible, then why do all these companies want it for billions and billions
Social
of
media.
dollars?
Oh
yeah, people are hung up on the TV ratings, and I get it. Like, and I'm not a defender of the brand, mind you. I could care less as far as like the future health and all of that. I mean, I want it to be around for, like, if the NBA went away, then we're facing like some really big issues, like something really weird's going on if that's the case. But yeah, I mean, it's a social media league is how I've seen it described probably most perfectly here the last couple of years in particular, because you can in one sense see a headline where the ratings are down 30% and yet impressions are in the billions, right? And so I think they're less worried about the TV rating and more worried about just the attention, and they're getting plenty of attention, and enough so to your point of, for every, I guess, commentator that says that they're dying because the ratings are down a third or whatever they may be, Amazon's lining up going, how much money can we spend on you guys? I mean, we could add another zero to this deal for you.
Remember what we discussed, Craig and Paul, during the Big 12 and the value about content. It's some, you want the ratings to be good, but these places are these networks and
it's also a worldwide sport.
Content.
It's also a worldwide sport. I mean, you got people all over Europe with massive stars. China, it's incredibly popular. I mean, it's a worldwide sport. So there's that, and not just the US TV cable ratings, dictating how much they're making. But that's very cool. That's a sign of the times and just life evolving and money increasing across the board. And still, though, to boil it down to a son and his very first contract less than 24 hours after being drafted. I guess he probably hasn't signed, but to already eclipse his father's entire career earnings in that same profession, that's pretty funny. And
I would have signed it before I went to bed.
Pretty cool bragging rights.
Yeah. Put that picture up one more time. When I saw this picture, I said, wait a minute. One has hair and the other one has no hair. One of them has a large, huge mane across. Paul used to have hair that big.
No, not that big.
But that's good for Dylan Harper. Great player.
You know what I've been very impressed with watching Dylan Harper over the last 2 days is how he balances his hat, because it's not going over the hair. He puts it on and it stayed balanced very well. Because that's a big fro.
He's got thick hair, man.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, he's just got a nice little nest to sit in. Yeah.
But he, I watched him, taking pictures with his new jersey today, turning his head in every which direction. Head didn't move. I was impressed.
How does that happen?
I don't know,
dude.
There's
got to be like a hair clip up in there or something.
No, he's just got thick hair.
I was kidding
there, but
I was because
I know none of us can relate to that, but it's pretty simple. He's just got thick hair.
I used to, but even then, like when my hair, like 2020 COVID, when they wouldn't allow us to get haircuts. That second month into COVID, my hair and beard was like, it was a lot. I mean, you guys know. And
you ever heard of a razor?
Well, I mean, like, I like to keep it, even, and I'm not very good at doing that. But my hair in particular was just wild, and I couldn't put a hat on and leave it like that. So, and it was still really thick back then. So.
All right, when we come back, Craig Smoak off the radar in the 5 o'clock hour. One of your banger guests that you have always said you liked, and Phil Bennett will join us today. This is 365 Sports. Garrett, I lost it. I absolutely did. I did not lose it because it's Marco's Pizza. Pizza lovers get it. Marco's Pizza. Bob Mock, the owner of 5 locations in the Waco area. There used to be none just a handful of years ago. Now in Robinson, Hewitt, Woodway, China Spring, and also Belle Meade. One thing about pizza companies, and really a lot of different restaurants in many ways, there was pizza. That's what you had. I worked at a long time in one of the more established pizza places forever during the summers when I was in high school and then in college. And that's what we had. We had pizza. Now, of course, pizza places have sandwiches and salads and so much more. And Marco's Pizza has all of that. You can go online, marcos.com, and look up the various specials they have with code words. Order it online, have it delivered, or you can yourself go pick it up on your way home. It's a fantastic place. Fastest growing pizza brand in America. And if you're interested, by the way, in any kind of a change in your life and you want to do something unique, they have franchises available. You can contact Bob Mock. If you're interested, contact me. I'll pass your name along to him. Marco's Pizza. Pizza lovers get it.
In our logo and advertising, we say we are people that you can count on. What does that mean? It starts with providing a quality vehicle and quality service at a fair price. But it also means we do what we say we will do, and we treat people fairly with respect. It starts by hiring great people, good local folks who work hard with a caring attitude. Our employees are the real reason we are people that you can count on. Put us to the test and see for yourself that at Richard Car Motors, we are people you can count on.
Parenting is full of surprises.
You never know what to expect.
So after our son was born, I called my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent to set up a life insurance policy in case something happened to me.
Sawyer is now 2.
And we'll soon have a sister. There's no one else I would trust with protecting my family.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Developed by Startup Waco, a nonprofit organization, GXG is a program designed to support the entrepreneurial development of Baylor University student athletes through NIL activations. The program helps student athletes maximize their platforms and offers a comprehensive support system for them to create and grow new businesses that not only benefit themselves, but also uplift the local economy. Fans who wish to support student athletes can donate to GXG via the GXG NIL Fund, BaylorBears.com/GXG. Contributions to support NIL activations through GXG can be made at BaylorBears.com/GXG. For more information, follow @GXG_GreenXGold on social media and visit the official website www.gxg.startupwaco.com. GXG, empowering student athlete entrepreneurship and uplifting the local economy through NIL activations.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine now has 2 locations to serve you. The original on Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street and the brand new spot in downtown Waco at 600 Franklin Avenue. If you're looking for the best in craft beers or local Texas bourbons, then the original is the place to be. And for the latest trends and online phenomenons, head downtown to the Franklin location. Either way, you're going to get the same great variety, customer service, and speedy experience. Check out both locations on their Facebook and Instagram pages, Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street, and now downtown on Franklin Avenue.
This is Craig Smoak's Off the Radar, presented by Alliance Bank. They take pride in making banking easy. AllianceBankTexas.com.
All right, welcome into Off the Radar here on 365 Sports, taking a look at some grab bags of headlines and stories and just whatever is out there of interest that we might not otherwise get to. And got kind of it's always a grab bag, but it's definitely kind of a mixed bag today. We touched on the Ron Harper story, which was not a big deal, and I'm glad you had that graphic ready. But that was one of the things I was eyeing. So we touched on that, but let's touch on a little follow-up of something I mentioned the other day. I think it might have been Monday or Tuesday, talking about Pat McAfee and his absence from WWE. And he kind of put out some cryptic tweets, I guess, that people were picking up on, because at one point in time, a couple of years ago, when he had sort of been putting out some cryptic tweets about business and things, it eventually turned into like this big ESPN announcement and all of that. So I guess he's got sort of a pattern where people were thinking that some things were moving along behind the scenes. And I'd mentioned that he had been off of WWE Raw for the past couple of weeks. They didn't say anything specific, just that he was not with them and noted his absence and had replacements for him. And I think it's actually been like 3 consecutive shows now. But he finally explained what was going on. And I know this is of interest only maybe to me, but he said, I was getting pretty exhausted there. He said on his show, as the reason for his WWE absence, said that he was getting pretty exhausted. I produce, host a 5-day-a-week show. I've been on the go every week since Dublin last year before college football. Plus, I run my growing company with 14 employees and have a 2-year-old daughter. And then he got into, I guess he needed to be the victim. And so here's what the mean wrestling fans were saying to him. But I don't so much care about that, nor do I feel sorry for him, but I totally get the exhaustion thing. And when I've been watching him the last few times, I'm like, he looks like a dude that's absolutely exhausted. I don't know how he's made it this far, and I don't know how he would have made it through college football season had he not taken a break at some point, because we're on the press. We're on the doorstep now. So that's what his explanation was, and that's just a minor thing that I'm just following up on that I had casually mentioned. But I can't imagine. He's got a new kid, and he just seems to be everywhere, all over the place, all at once. And I think sometimes it can be a little bit too much, and I was starting to feel that way about him on that show. But now that he's explained it, I understand his performances or lack thereof the last few times I saw him a lot better. And I go, okay, you were tired. That clearly makes sense because, dude, you were not really on the ball like you typically are.
It's a very strange thing when you get as famous as he got, as quickly as he got famous.
So fast.
You have to, like, in that world, you've got all these people who now have business interest in you. So you're striking while the iron's hot because you don't know when it's not going to be. And so, yeah, I think that, you've got to really think about all that stuff he's doing when you're doing a 5-day-a-week show, when you're doing College Game Day, when you're doing the WWE, which is in those last two things, the 5-day-a-week show is in the same spot most of the time, unless they're doing remote broadcast.
Yeah.
But College Game Day and WWE, he's not doing it from the same spot two weeks in a row.
Well, he's not doing those simultaneously either.
No,
he does take a break,
yeah.
but yeah.
But even still, so you do that the whole year,
Right,
and then
right.
Everything else. So yeah, you gotta. And I think part of the thing that ESPN likes to do is once they get their meat hooks in somebody, they just splat them out everywhere until they get to a point where hey, can I be less here?
That's why Stephen A is doing sports that he has no idea really what he's talking about, but he's there because he's Stephen A and he's going to pull viewers.
Martina Navratilova terrible.
Exactly. Yeah. Hear him breaking down the most random thing. You're like, when did you cover that sport? But it's Stephen A, so he's just
the
talking.
Canadian curling team is a disgrace.
Well, he did. I think he did have big hockey opinions when that was going on. That's an example of it.
It's not like he's having to be the one that sets up all the studio stuff, but it's aware.
Yeah.
It's a travel wear and tear. It can be mentally exhausting. You wake up. Are you thinking about his show? Are you thinking about Game Day? Are you thinking about a feature? Are you thinking about WWE? This is not a great analogy, but I'll bring it up. I remember when I was doing radio, and then I was asked to start doing television, and they started to shoot the 6 p.m. sportscast in my studio where I was, or our studio where I was. And even though somebody wrote a lot of what was in the sportscast of 3 or 4 minutes, it's on your mind. Even when you wake up, even if you have a producer, and that's the most minuscule analogy, but it is there and it can wear you out.
Yeah, anybody that's had a regular job, you do it enough days in a row without really any meaningful breaks. A day here and there is nice, but it doesn't fully recharge you. But yeah, I could tell, watching him the last couple times, I'm just he doesn't seem as engaged. He seems exhausted, and he doesn't really sound like he knows what he's talking about with half this stuff. So I don't think he's been paying attention as much as he probably should be to be doing this. And then sure enough, he's missed 3 Mondays in a row. But while he did go out and put out all of the meanies who were sending the mean tweets his way, hey, don't ever come back, it's better without you. And I think it actually might have been. Nevertheless, I'm not going to send him mean tweets like that, but they do have their big Saudi Arabia show coming up.
Oh, boy.
And guess who's hinting that he might make an appearance? Go get that money, that Saudi Arabia money. And I think probably most people would, but I'm not surprised he's not going to probably miss that one, because that's a massive payday for most everybody involved to go travel over there and be part of that show. But McAfee explaining his raw absence, and he's such a lightning rod right now, right? In the sports media landscape. I don't like to talk too much sports media because I feel weird as a media guy talking about media guys talking about athletes. That's why when we start talking about Stephen A and stuff like that sometimes, or just anybody for that matter, I don't want to keep mentioning him specifically, but it's kind of weird. I don't know if there should be a market covering people like us or much more famous people like us, but there is a market for it apparently. And with McAfee, I'm surprised he hasn't burned out at this point. I mean, you can have all the private jets you want and all the money that you want.
Yep.
It's still exhausting to have to go there and perform every single day for hours at a time.
How many times have we seen entertainers just like poof, they're done. They're just not
after
the
a
same.
big tour, you take months off and you recharge, and so he's recharging, but he's going to be back for that Saudi money, I would bet. All right, yeah, for sure. And I think that's this weekend, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, I'd expect to see him there for that. All right, I came across this. Y'all follow the guy Ari Myrov, My Sports Update? Yeah. He's kind of a what would you call it?
A bit of an aggregator.
But also he does like his own interviews, I think, from time to time. I've seen him do some of that stuff. But I came across a tweet he had earlier today, and this is off the radar, so this is about as off the radar as it gets. But a random anniversary, 12 years ago today, Aaron Hernandez was arrested, released by the Patriots, and charged with first-degree murder, all within hours. And as he put on there, a wild, shocking, and unforgettable day. And then reposted some tweets that he had, I guess, passing along updates back on what would have been June 26th of 2013. And doesn't have the timestamps on here, but in consecutive order, it's the judge has denied bail to Aaron Hernandez. He's been charged with first-degree murder and 5 other charges. A little while later, Aaron Hernandez has been charged with murder. A little while later, the New England Patriots have released tight end Aaron Hernandez. And so I don't have much on that other than so much has happened and we just kind of blow by things in life, but that is one of the wildest stories I've ever seen covering sports and just in general. And there's been buku documentaries about it at this point. Some I've found interesting, some, kind of like whatever about, but what was y'all's reaction at the time and what's kind of like the lasting impression you have from the Aaron Hernandez saga? Like, did anything specific jump out to you from all that?
Well, Paul celebrated because he's a hates Florida.
It was another knock on Spurrier's. Myers Gators. Yeah.
I don't know if this is not like nothing like you reacted to when OJ chased in the white Bronco.
It's kind of close though, if you think about it. I mean, he's not near the level of a star of OJ, but like when you start to unwrap like murder and then murders.
What was Ray Caruth story? What was the one with
his wife or girlfriend in the trunk? Yeah, he killed her.
Yeah. But
the kid is alive.
Believe so.
The baby's alive. Yeah.
And you start to like get in I don't know, these stories, and sometimes you just like you don't worry about them, and some of them grab you. And this Aaron Hernandez story, I was focused in listening to all the details as they started trickling in.
Yeah, I mean, just the crash out going from Pro Bowl, All-Pro tight end to multiple murders and just, I mean, you talk about crashing out. I mean, that's what that guy did, and that's we'd never quite seen anything like that. I mean, OJ was long retired when that happened. Yeah. Ray Caruth was a footnote in anybody's minds as far as an NFL player goes, as awful as that story was. But the Aaron Hernandez was like, new layers kept developing like every few hours and days. And it was just like, wait, now there's another body. And now there's like this incident from back at this bar. And there's like, and now there's this, like the documentaries where they got the footage of him walking around his house and you can see a gun in his hand and just all that stuff that came out. So 13 years ago today, it's a random ass anniversary, but Ari, thanks for giving me some content here.
It's like peeling an onion, layers of onion.
There were things that happened at Florida. With him, I mean,
we'd come to find out.
Came to find out, like there were things that had like those teams in Gainesville. I should have said
they were really good football teams.
They were very good football teams.
They were, boys.
But what they had one of the players on with Channing Crowder and said, look, Urban Meyer can talk about T-ball all he wants, but he's like, but we had some of the baddest, of all time on this team, and he's like, he went into, and he did. I mean, he went into those places, but they had a lot of those incidents, and a lot of them were like Aaron Hernandez. Like I didn't even know about this, when I would read every negative story about Urban Meyer's Gators I could. This wasn't even out until then, but there were several incidents where he would just drive by and shoot inanimate objects.
Yeah. You are no longer a part of this jury, by the way.
I would I'd be off so fast on a jury like
Start
that.
doing the Seminole chant
Yeah,
in the middle of it.
Like, say Urban Meyer gets in trouble for this,
Little scam with Tebow.
Yeah, this little scam about the investing company and all that stuff
Alleged
that they've got
scam.
going on. But he got in trouble, and I was on the jury, and they're like, "Do you know who this is?" Yeah, I knew he was a son of a bitch. Yeah. What's the maximum penalty? That.
Yeah.
Well,
do we still do stocks?
I think that was the thing about Florida is like they just had that poster child, the angelic, pretty boy, like could do nothing wrong. And the whole time you pull the mask off and it's like the worst locker room imaginable, just filled with, a murder and just a bunch of guys who I guess were up to a lot more than people realized at the time because they had this face of the program that was getting all of this positive attention. And you would have thought that like everything's fine in Gainesville.
Yep.
Little did we know, but eventually we did find out because Tigers can't change their stripes. And Aaron Hernandez was a Tiger with a lot of complicated stripes. And I 13 years ago.
I think it's great because Nebraska, when they won all their national titles in the 90s, were choir boys themselves.
Sure they were. Yes, they were. Just don't Google the Peters brothers. Don't Google Lawrence Phillips.
Whatever happened, Tyrone Williams, whatever happened to that? Wasn't there going to be like a documentary on that?
There was, and it was a fluff piece, wasn't it? I didn't watch it. Swamp Kings?
Yeah.
Oh, I never saw it.
Oh, no, it was – so they traded
this is about that 60-3 Nebraska run.
Yeah. Oh, no, I'm talking about the Urban Meyer one.
Oh, okay.
The Urban Meyer
I'm
one.
talking about the Nebraska one.
The Urban Meyer one, they traded access. So to get Tebow and Urban Meyer, they couldn't talk about any of the bad stuff.
Oh,
and,
I thought, yeah.
Yeah, so like there was one guy who got in trouble that he kicked off the team and then ultimately sadly committed suicide. And then they asked Urban Meyer, that was the only thing they brought up. And they brought up a little bit of Aaron Hernandez with Tebow, and his explanation was crazy. But Urban Meyer's like, well, that's why I didn't kick anybody off the team again. You're like, you kicked Cam Newton off the team for stealing a laptop.
Yeah.
What are you talking about? We just glaze over that? As a matter of fact, in some of the background in the shot, Cam Newton's in them.
Yeah, he is.
You are not on the jury.
I know.
Okay,
but
great.
I didn't watch that. I just I read some of the reviews, and I don't take every review at face value. I check things out for myself, but I just have no interest in that story. I have no interest in Urban Meyer in anything, in any level. I don't care if it's this podcast or whatever. I'm sure there's some valuable insight. Just me personally, some people don't like this type of music or that type of music. I don't care about anything Urban Meyer is involved with, so I haven't seen that. But I didn't hear great reviews on how hard it hit or how hard it could have hit that time period. So couple more notes here, one of them being that Justin Tucker, the former Baltimore Ravens kicker, one of the greatest kickers in NFL history, has now officially been suspended for the first 10 weeks of the upcoming regular season after the NFL found he violated its personal conduct policy. He is a free agent, and he can serve those 10 games as a free agent. He's free to sign with anybody, and if he does, he could be in training camp. He could play in preseason games, and then once the regular season starts, that is when his suspension would then kick in, and he would actually miss games. It's hard to imagine now that anybody will take a chance on signing a kicker who's 35 years old and had his worst year? Was it officially his worst year or one of his worst years?
It was his worst year.
Officially his worst year, 35 years old. Major allegations about improper conduct and assault to some degree, sexual misconduct with some massage therapist. I don't think, point being, anybody's lining up to sign him anytime soon. He will be eligible for reinstatement on November 11th. And for those that don't know what the story is, the former Raven, Texas Longhorn legend as well, accused of sexual misconduct by 16 massage therapists from 8 different spas and wellness centers in the Baltimore area, according to the Baltimore Banner, all of them occurring between 2012 and 2016 when he was in his first 5 years in the NFL. He got released back in May, and his agent, of course, has been propping him up and saying how disappointed they were in the investigation and the decisions and all of that, and they're maintaining their innocence. But regardless, he's going to be suspended 10 games by the NFL. I'm just curious of where this eventually ends, for him. It's not going to be the Deshaun Watson ending. That could be the happy ending, pun intended. It's just interesting to see a guy who was, the greatest kicker of all time. And
he was, I think so. Yeah. There's there's like a handful.
Innocent until proven guilty, mind you.
Yeah. This guy was just phenomenal at Texas, and obviously what he did at Baltimore. Clutch as he could. Adam Vinatieri's in that conversation among a couple other guys, but he is nuts when it comes to his accuracy.
The percentage was the best in NFL history.
His worst year was 22 of 30 field goals.
Yeah.
22 of 30 and 5 of 8 in between 40 and 49 and 650 plus.
Yeah, but I found it very interesting, the legal defense that he is trying to build is this is all for attention that multiple massage therapists from different states who've never met each other all suddenly came across like, hey, have you guys ever been harassed by the Baltimore Ravens kicker?
Yeah,
I mean, it's a weird thing. Like,
most of the cases are in the Baltimore area, so it's not like it's all over the place. But I know what you're saying.
But they're all over. They're all over Baltimore. Like,
yeah.
He, once he went and did it at one place and realized, I can't go back there.
Right.
I'm going to go to another place.
Yeah, very predatory. So we'll see what that looks like for him, but he will not be playing in the NFL. I don't know that he would have been playing. I mean, I'm sure somebody was signing for training camp or something like that. But I don't think we're going to watch him play football probably ever again. But let the justice system play out its process. And then just two final things very quickly. Tonight, second round of the NBA draft out in Brooklyn, New York. That'll get underway at 7 o'clock Central. You can find that on ESPN if you so choose. And then final note being, throw a little bone here to Garrett, as Jamie Benn, Dallas Stars captain, signs a 1-year, $1 million deal to remain with the team ahead of the free agency period. And so I just thought this would be of interest to you, Garrett, and haven't heard from you in a little bit. So your thoughts on Jamie Benn coming back? Because there was some thoughts that they might move on at this point. So what do you think?
I think it was a good deal to bring him back. I like how they only went for 1 year, because I think you need to reevaluate his situation next year, because he is kind of on his last leg of his career. I'm interested to see how they handle this with Tyler Seguin going forward, because I thought they would have to choose between one of them or the other. That's yet to be seen. But no, I think it was the right decision to bring him back and only keep him to that 1 year deal.
For a 1 year deal for $1 million, they could probably
you can make up to 3 with performance bonuses.
Right.
But
but if they can get Tyler Seguin on a similar,
then you would be
deal.
golden, because you've already locked up Duchesne. So
yeah. So he got drafted. He's looking at year 19 coming up. So he's sticking around in Dallas. For Stars fans, that is definitely noticeable, and they've been very active this offseason as they try to break through and actually get to the finals. But there's a few things off the radar.
Thank you, Craig. On the Justin Tucker note, Harrison Butker, Kansas City's Chiefs, he's number 2 all time when it comes to field goal accuracy. Remember Dan Bailey, Paul?
Mm-hmm.
Mike Vanderjet, they're all in the Vanderjet's 8th all time.
He's in the Cowboys Ring of Honor, right?
He was that was the Peyton Manning note with him, but he was a great kicker. He's the 8th all time. But there's a note about Justin Tucker and a pretty good margin over Harrison Butker for field goal percentage. When we come back, we haven't heard from him in a long time. Phil Bennett, longtime college football coach. A couple of you have sent notes to me about questions you'd like for us to ask Coach Bennett. If you want to do that in the chat room, tag my name and I'll get to it if we can. Phil Bennett, he's next. This is 365 Sports.
Automatic Chef is your local vending, office coffee, and micro market provider, delivering outstanding service to break rooms all over Central Texas for over 50 years. Automatic Chef brings the best products to your location at the best prices. With hundreds of choices in fresh food, coffee, snacks, and drinks, let Automatic Chef tailor a break room solution to your needs. Make break time great again with Automatic Chef. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchef.com.
Baylor alumni are more than 160,000 strong. When we all join hands to support our university, we don't just move the needle, we move mountains. Working together, we create life-changing opportunities for students on the field, in the classroom, in the laboratory, and in life for generations to come. So get connected, get involved. Learn how at baylor.edu/alumni.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Penny Clinic Men's Healthcare in Woodway is now proud to offer you men an exceptional weight management body sculpting product called semaglutide, also known as Ozempic or Wegovy. Semaglutide is an FDA-approved weight management medication. Once-a-week injections of this powerful medication offers an average body fat weight loss of 20% within the first year of treatment. In addition to body sculpting, semaglutide also normalizes blood sugars and has the clinical research proof of reducing blood pressure, cholesterol, stroke, and heart attack risk. If you're like most men and you have stubborn fat that will just not respond to typical diets and exercise, then help is finally here. Semaglutide, affordable, highly effective. Google search Penny Clinic Waco and reach out to the Penny Clinic team today for a free consultation with Dr. Penny to see if semaglutide is right for you. Go to pennycliniclowt.com.
This is 365 Sports. Enjoying the show? Hit the like button and subscribe.
365 Sports, it has been too long since we had when we have Phil Bennett on the show, everybody loves it. And hey, by the way, I just got off the phone with a great friend of yours, Steve Stevenson. He called me today, and he's watching you right now. So a lot of pressure. I know you guys are running buddies.
Hey, he's heard it all before.
Okay, there. What's that?
I said he's heard it all before.
He was with Alvin. They were going to Canton to pick up a truck or something like that, and so he said hi, and glad that he called me earlier today.
He's one of my best friends. He's a great guy.
All right, I had somebody ask me this question. You know, we've discussed that you played at A&M, and all the recruiting stories you've had as a head or assistant coach throughout your career. What was your recruitment when it came to Texas A&M, and who were the other options or whatever you had involved?
It's funny you asked me that because I did a podcast in Philadelphia last week, and the guy was sort of going over the history of teams in the 70s that were underlooked, and our team was one of them. When I came out, Smokey, I thought I was going to go to Arkansas. I had a great family friend, a guy named Ronnie Hammers, that was an All-American offensive guard at Arkansas. Jimmy Johnson. There was a lot of coaches that I had ties to. Frank Broyles spoke at our banquet. I ended up getting recruited by A&M, Arkansas, LSU, Texas, SMU, Texas Tech, TCU.
Man.
And you know, it was a different day back then. You took your visits and obviously signing day, and my class was the first year of 30 scholarships. You know, you used to have a ton of guys before I thought I was going to Arkansas. Then I went to Texas. A guy named Ken Dabbs recruited me in Texas, and he was just I tell you what, turned out to be a lifelong friend of mine. And I didn't go to Texas. I can still remember Coach Royal came to Marshall, and I met him, and he was not a happy man. And he never smiled much later on in my life when I ran into him. I think he remembered things. And then, you know, I thought that LSU might be, you know, living in that Arklatex. But when I went to A&M, the one thing, Emory Bellard, I just felt the atmosphere. I felt the guys, they hadn't won here. And they all, when they recruited me, you know, the players, they said, hey, come here. We're going to win. This is going to be a good place. And I think they told me the other day in my career, while I was here, but you didn't redshirt. I think I was 36-11, which was pretty dang good. Had a Co-Southwest championship. In 76, I think we might have had the best team in the nation at the end of the year when we played Florida in the Sun Bowl. So it was really a good decision.
By the way, Ken Dabbs, for those that don't know, Earl Campbell credited Ken Dabbs for landing him in Austin, Texas, not Darrell Royal, Fred Akers, or of course Akers was not there yet, but Ken Dabbs, a legendary recruiter for the University of Texas.
Right. Just, I mean, when I say this, and no, I didn't go there. Every time I went to Austin, I would drink beer at Schultz's with Coach Dabbs. I mean, he would call, check on me. I mean, was just a dear, dear friend. And you remember this in that time. Marshall, Longview, John Tyler won the state championship that year with Corky and Earl. Had a fullback named Lynn King, and of course Gary Don Johnson and Ronnie Lee, and that league was really tough. And Kilgore had two guys, Lou Sibley and Travis Couch. Longview had Mike Mock. Henderson had a running back named Joe Paul Page. East Texas was loaded that year. I had a teammate, Newt Dorsett, that went to SMU, was a really good player.
Phil, you mentioned Coach Ballard, who you played for and then coached with. He was a character. And, of course, A&M kind of had that. Shelby Metcalf was, a nut, an absolute nut. And Emory Ballard had he just had he was maybe a little bit more outgoing. I don't want to say outgoing than Darrell Royal, but he had more of a fun attitude toward him, like a sense of humor. Did he have to have that because he was taking over a much more difficult job at the time?
When he took it over, the thing that he knew, and he told me this one time, we were on the road. This is after I was through playing. We were on the road recruiting. He said, I knew that A&M, when I took the job, people don't realize this. There weren't hardly many girls here. It was a cadet school, and it was growing and it was transforming. And Emory told him, he said, the only way I'll take this is you need to understand, I'm gonna recruit any kid I want, African American. We're going after the best players, and in '72 he ends up getting Bubba Bean, Skip Walker, Pat, our corner. I'm sitting there.
Pat Thomas.
Pat Thomas, and Jackie Williams. I mean, really some great players, and it just starts snowballing. And like I said, when I came here, these players were sold on the fact that, hey, you know what? Come here. We haven't done it yet. They had not had a winning record, and man, it took off, and we became real.
Bubba Bean from Kirbyville, Texas, legendary.
Hey, when you come down, he's playing golf with us. He's a golfing fool.
Is he really?
Oh, yes.
Former Tyler Junior College basketball coach Roy Thomas, I think, was from Kirbyville as well.
He was.
Yep, great guy. Yeah. All right, so that's about your recruitment. You've told us about the Xavier Howard recruitment because the transcript had some kind of a number or a letter on it.
Yeah, it had, we thought it meant remedial.
Yes.
And the truth was he didn't take the class on campus. It was remote.
Yep. So you have that one. We know about the Andrew Billings the day he committed, and we were the ones he did that to. Is there another favorite from all of your years in coaching? I know you must have 6 of them, but is there another one that's pretty unique?
One of the things that when I was at LSU, I recruited North Louisiana, East Texas. And you'll remember this name. You remember Josh Booty?
Oh, yeah, the quarterback, yeah.
Well, he was at Evangel, and they were so good. And Denny Duran was the head coach. Actually, Dennis Dunn was. And Denny, the founder of the school, was the quarterback coach. And Johnny Booty and the family, they were wonderful. And everybody just assumed, we would be in it. But he was getting recruited by the world. I mean, the world. And he was also a pitcher and a baseball player. And I watched him that spring. I said, hell, he's not going to go to the baseball there was like, not very good baseball. And we spend all this time. And I remember, and Denny Duran was just at A&M's camp, and he reminded me of the story. They had odd hours. I mean, they were great people. And we one night we went out to breakfast at 1 o'clock in the morning. And Smokey, Denny Duran said, Phil, you probably think we're crazy. You probably hadn't ever had breakfast at 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock in the morning like we do, all us, church people. And I looked at him, I said, Denny, I've had a bunch of breakfasts at 1 or 2, but I don't remember all of them. and he always told me, he goes, we knew you were a real dude then. You were honest. But I ended up, Josh committed to me. It was a huge get.
Mm-hmm.
And lo and behold, he gets drafted. I don't even think he was a first-round pick, but Miami, or I believe it was Miami, ends up offering him, the Marlins, more than anybody in the draft. And I think he was a fifth-round pick. They offered him well over $1 million, and he had to take it. And so it was heartbreaking. It was heartbreaking. And I think it turned Curley's he could have been the guy for us. And I think it turned Curly Holmes' tenure around at LSU.
He eventually came back, but Curly wasn't there anymore.
No, he wasn't there. He came back under DiNardo and played well.
Went to the NFL for a bit. We've interviewed him at a couple of
Josh Booty.
Yeah, we had him at a Super Bowl a couple years ago. I think it was in Atlanta.
Great kid.
Yeah,
great kid. Great. His little brother Abram was an All-American receiver at LSU during that time and was a stud. He was a very good player.
Phil, what was it like? I mean, look, it's one thing to lose a kid to another school. That's just the name of it. But when you're recruiting against $1 million back then in Major League Baseball and stuff like that, how difficult was that when you had to go into a place and then you found out like, oh, well, turns out this kid has a 96-mile-an-hour fastball at 17 years old?
I told you, I'd watched him all that year and stuff. I said, he's a good player, but this league is so poor. I mean, he could hit with power, and he was a great athlete. But I said, I just don't see it, and I didn't think baseball was that important. And I can remember, I found out they called me when he finally made his decision to accept it. They had told me they weren't going to do it. My late wife and I, my kids, we go to Destin every year. I'm down there on the beach. I'm so happy. And we didn't have cell phones then, right? And I get back to my condo right on the beach, and I have the flashing light, and it was Johnny Booty, his dad. And he told me, he said, Phil, we prayed about it and said Josh is going to go with the Marlins. And I can tell you, here I am 70 years old, and I should not, but it's still, it was devastating. And I walked out and your family gets so involved in it. I can remember watching my late wife just literally bawl in the sand, stuck her head in the sand because we had lost him. And that's how families get involved in this. It's a good memory and a bad memory.
Yeah, it's like being a coach's wife. The wins, the losses, the practices, the hours and stuff, and then of course you guys are tied into who you bring on campus to play for you.
It's crazy. And LSU was a little bit before its time, and you guys remember this, but you didn't have like shows like yours, but they did. But the internet wasn't there. But talk radio was the big. They had this station called Tiger Rag, and man, if Tiger Rag said it, it was the damn truth. and you know, so Tiger Rag, you know, if somebody came out and said that, you know, I mean, there were so many conspiracies, and the bottom line was, how do you turn? You know, here you have a preacher that has 5 kids. How do you turn down $1 million?
No, you don't. I mean, no, you don't. It's hard to do it now, much less back when you were coaching.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, hey, I believe we could outbid some people now, though.
Yeah. No,
we could. If I believe Tiger Athletic Foundation could outbid the Marlins.
How would you do having to? I mean, again, the coaches mostly don't do it, but how would you personally do having to negotiate at least part of a? You know, make somebody feel comfortable about the money they're going to get. Would you like? I mean, would you be able to kind of?
Oh, absolutely.
Accept that as part of okay.
Absolutely. Listen, though. You know, I saw the Iowa coach who is my age. He said this, and I thought it was refreshing. He said, "When I realized I still wanted to coach, he said I got into it. I want to be involved in it. I want to, you know." It's different. It's something different, and I would be that way. I would still pick those players. I would make the decision. Hey, you're getting this because it's your job. You have the most to lose, and I would get both feet all the way in and get involved in that.
I mentioned Kirk Ferentz, by the way. That comments that you would think as a stoic, conservative guy. We mentioned that earlier in the week, Craig.
Yeah, no, he actually, I think if anything, is energized by it. It's something new and fun and a new challenge is kind of how I took his comments. And we've been talking a lot and throughout the offseason, I was just curious about how much you've heard about Texas Tech this offseason, just on the topic of this new era and just leading in. I mean, there's not a more talked about team in the country, Phil. What are your thoughts on just how they've gone for it and what's kind of been the reaction that you've heard from maybe some of those in the coaching community?
Craig, I think you're absolutely right. I think without question, they are all in. And with Cody Campbell and you know, when my brother passed, I got a really nice call from Joey. Joey, you know, we've been friends with Joy. All of the Bennett brothers have been friends with Joy. And we got to talk a little bit about it. And he told me, he said, Phil, he said, it's a big year for me. We got to get better. And, you know, he made some changes. And I sort of helped him with some things defensively when he made some changes. And, you know, he told me, he said, that old saying, to those who've much given, much expected. So it's going to be interesting. I think he thinks they're talented on offense. They needed to get their defense better. Got to play good early. They have a big game at BYU early in the season. So I think that, you know, they've done everything they can to try to put them in a position to be successful. Now, what I always tell people, and Smokey, me and you talked about it, the thing you better understand about the portal. And one of the things I thought we did a great job at Baylor doing, we did a great job at Kansas State, is evaluating talent. You still have to evaluate guys, and you've got to get them to play at their highest level. And you know, you get some programs that have a knack for it. Some people get, you know, one of the things the kid they got from Belton really didn't come through for him as a freshman. Even though he's back now, Joey told me. So they've got to coach them, put them in the right position. And but yes, they're committed financially. They have put their money where their mouth is.
You have coached, my goodness, in some of the biggest programs ever. For example, Oklahoma. You mentioned LSU, obviously A&M, Arizona State, Pittsburgh. I mean, these are some dudes. And then your time at Baylor, TCU, among others. Do you have a piece of clothing, hat, jacket, T-shirt from every one of those schools?
I kept 1 or 2 items everywhere I've ever been.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. Now,
Iowa State, Purdue. I wanted to make it.
Iowa State, Purdue, and I've kept 1 or 2 items everywhere. But my wife now doesn't understand. I said, I don't know if you'll give it to my children but it just. I say this, David, and I told this podcast guy. I have lived 44 years of such a blessed career. I never worked for a bad person. I didn't ever have a job that I didn't want to go to. You look. I look at it. The guy told me, he said, "You work for 3 of the most innovative coaches in college football." And I'm thinking, yeah. I said, and he's talking about Emory Bellard invented the wishbone. We all know what that did. I mean, people who copied it, Oklahoma became dynamic. Alabama became dynamic when they went to it. And then Bill Snyder, quarterback run game, maybe the greatest coach of doing the best job, period, than at a school that was not known for it. And then Art Briles. Art was so innovative and creative that people – I can still remember Nick Saban telling me, how in the hell does he do that? How does he make it so simple that they could run that many plays that fast? And it's true. I've worked for 3 of the guys on offense that were they were absolutely game changers. And, you throw in R.C. Slocum, Fred Akers, Jim Kreiner at Iowa State, Dave Wanstead. I have been, if I die tomorrow, I will be a blessed man for what my career gave me.
When you were, in Baylor, you guys were kind of masters of this, especially on offense. You just kind of knew that until you got established, you were going to have to, Corey Coleman wasn't walking through the door right away. You had to build up to get the Corey Colemans. So it was, what can this guy do physically, and we'll teach him how to play football the way we want him to once he gets here. Is that the key to being a super elite recruiter, is not just getting guys who everybody knows are good, but finding the guys with the skill sets that you desire to make your system work and then being able to coach them up more often than not?
I think you hit the nail on the head. But one of the things that I think that specifically Coach Snyder and Art did was Art used to tell me, he said, if he can run and he goes, and he has the ability to learn, and he will be committed to the team and will work, he said, we'll find a place for him. And I believe that. That's the things that I believe. Bill Snyder was like that. He said the only thing, he said, he can be an inch shorter, 2 inch shorter. He can be light. He can be heavy. We'll get that. We'll work with that. But number one, he's got to be a good player at his position. He's got to be a competitor. He's got to be able to run, and he's got to be able to take coaching. And I think about us at Baylor. When I first went there, we weren't very good on defense, and we found a way. And I've said this many times. I've never, and I don't feel like I have to be validated by anybody, but it took me a while with Art's offense to find the recipe that, hey, this is and we found it. And we found what we could do. I didn't worry about total yards. I worried about points per possession and yards per snap. And in 4 straight years, we were in the top 10 in all those. And that's the way you win. And we found a recipe. And Art told me, and I've said this many times, he was so honest. He said, Phil, we're not changing what we're doing. He said, he did. The only thing I told him, I said, you have to tell me you won't go for it unless we talk about it. He said, yes. And every one of them, he did. He was a man of his word, but he had a dynamic feel for the game. And we found a recipe on defense. The kids bought into it. They knew what we were trying to do. Hell, I think that in 14 or 15, we were 8-0 or something like that. And out of the 8 games, 5 of them, we had 3 and outs. The first 3 and out. And we were up either 28 or 21-0 in every game. How about that?
I remember
changes the game.
Yeah, I remember when you arrived, like Brian Norwood, who stayed on the staff, but I remember if you could just get one stop a half with the way they were done. And of course, you started creating turnovers and all of that.
Well, and you know, I tell people this: a smart player, and I always go back to Cholo, Mike Hicks. I mean, he gave me something in the back end. I mean, I could talk to him and teach him. And I was a guy, I was along the Buddy Ryan. I didn't want to be guessing on calls. We were a check team by splits, by formations, and Mike was smart, and he could do that. And Eddie could do it in the front. Bryce Hager could do it. My first year, oh hell, I loved him. Or we moved him from safety to linebacker. Help me.
Where'd he play high school ball? You remember?
He played at Sugarland. He does radio for Baylor.
Elliot Coffey.
Elliot, my man E.
Yeah.
I mean, let me tell you something. He played one of the toughest kids I have ever seen in my life. Played the whole year with a bum shoulder, kept him from getting drafted, but he wouldn't quit. And I'm telling you, every game he played, we won or got close to it because he could get us in the right situation. Him and Cholo were they ran the show. And we found that recipe. And I always tell this. I played in the Texas. I was down there at the Texas Hall of Fame Celebrity Golf Tournament. And Seth and I were talking to each other. And I believe this with all my heart. In 15, we would have won a national. We would have been undefeated. Had Seth and Stidham. One of them would have got through the year. It was just so unfortunate.
A couple more things. One, someone wanted to know, do you have chlorine or salt water in your pool?
You know, I have chlorine because I have the rocks that the salt will eat. And that was a good question. But the slate that I have in my pool, I'll turn it around. It is, you can tell on the deal that it will get eaten up by the salt.
Okay. A couple more things that I know you got to go, and we did too.
Hey, I'm gonna put your ass in this hot tub when we come down there and play golf.
All right.
I'll cook for you too.
Well, yeah, I see that. Well, I can't wait. I really, really can't. We promised each other we're going to do it in July.
We're going to do it in July.
Yeah, we're going to do it in July. Penn State, Texas, Ohio State, Notre Dame, all of them in the semis, all of them loaded again despite losing some players because they're all good. Which of those 4 teams might struggle the most this year? If struggle is a kind of a word that I don't think any of them will struggle.
Well, I'm going to tell you one that's going to struggle. Ohio State's going to struggle. And they're going to struggle because they named, not that he's a bad coach, but he's never been in college. Matt Patricia he's going to struggle coaching college defense. They're going to go back to a guy, their wide receiver coach at offensive coordinator. If Ryan Day doesn't get involved, they're going to have an issue there. I told somebody on a national deal, I said, I'm telling you, Ohio State, Texas, well, you'll see. Sarkisian, Matt Patricia is born and bred in the NFL. He has 0 college experience, and I think he'll struggle.
And he's about to face a team with a quarterback, a coach, a great play caller in Sarkisian to open up with.
I think he had 1 year as a GA, and then he got in the NFL.
Yeah.
And
his last 5 or 6 years in the NFL were atrocious.
Well, he's not well known as an organized person either, Phil.
Well, you can look at him.
Yeah. Yeah. He's
and I'm not saying he's a bad guy or anything. I'm just and even on offense now, Brian, I forget the wide receiver coach.
Brian Hartline. Yeah.
Hartline. They had given him the coordinator job before Kelly went there. He couldn't do it. Now they're giving it back to him. He doesn't know the front. He doesn't know the run game. If Ryan Day, now listen, Ryan Day didn't do anything on offense last year. Kelly was outstanding, and of course the guy that left went to Penn State. It's going to be, now I'm not saying they won't be good. I mean, I know they'll have good players, but schematically and how you coach them in college, you can be exposed if you don't know what you're doing.
Phil, we appreciate you. We love you, man. We do. And you and I texting back and forth, and so many people that loved your brother, Jerry. I know a ton of people showed up, heard all about it. You and Jim, your brother, got up and spoke, and my God, the outpouring of love has been amazing.
Well, I'm going to tell you something. I was blessed with so many, all three of my brothers, and unfortunately, we've lost Glenn and Jerry, and Jerry and I were at the close age together, and he was my mentor, and and you and I talked about it because you've lost a brother. It's been a hard hit, and I really miss him, but I was fortunate too to have him. So, and he was a lot of fun. We both know that.
He's the funniest guy, maybe one of the funniest people I've ever known in my life. Honestly, he was, and you are too, man. We appreciate it. Are you? We're going to do it on the air. You're going to come back with us during football season?
Absolutely. I enjoy it. I enjoy visiting with y'all.
All right. Thank you, Coach. Appreciate it.
All right, guys.
Phil Bennett, longtime college football coach with us, and he will be a weekly guest. Kind of knew that, but wanted to make sure we appreciate his time. Next time we get him on, I want to ask him, of all the head coaches he worked for, who was the best closer when they needed him to close? Was it Bill Snyder? Who was it? Because he worked for a ton of them. You want to do Washington here?
Yeah, let's go ahead.
Yeah. All right. So we have how many teams left? We're down to the W's in the Big Ten.
Yeah, we got Washington, and then we have Wisconsin after this. Then we'll jump into the SEC.
Okay. All right. So we've been doing teams. It's been on and off, a little bit more erratic of late, but we are getting to that point. And of course, with the season now, a month and a half, 2 months, 2.5 months, 2 months away. Washington, and it's the Big Ten. And Craig Smoak.
Yeah, thanks. It's been a bit erratic, but here we are towards the end of the Big Ten, and the Washington Huskies, who finished, a little towards the back half of the Big Ten a year ago. First year with Jed Fish at the helm after coming over from Arizona. Do have a pretty talented young quarterback, though, and Damon Williams that has you excited about all the opportunities this year. But this, as I mentioned pretty much every time, is not a full on breakdown. It's just a look at the schedule as much as anything else. And so here's what the Washington Huskies are facing after a 2024 season that saw them go 6-7 and have the weird mark of being undefeated at home, also not winning a road game and then losing their neutral site game to Washington State, which was a lot of egg on the face given the realignment storylines that were rolling into that one. So it was a weird year, a bit of a rocky year there for Jed Fish and company. But hoping to have some more success and up that record past the 500 mark. So how will they go about doing that, and who will they see on their path to trying to accomplish that? Starting off with the first game of the year there in week 1. It is Colorado State on August the 30th at Husky Stadium. It'll be a Big Ten Network game, as will the following week's contest against UC Davis at Husky Stadium there in week number 2. And then week 3, you get into that rivalry action, a team that jumped up and bit you last year in the Apple Cup, Washington State. This game in Pullman. It was at the Seahawks facility last year, Lumen Field, but this year in Pullman, Washington on September the 20th, and they will have 2 weeks to prepare for that one as they have the early bye week following that UC Davis game. So you've got Colorado State, UC Davis at home, a bye week, and then it's Washington State in a road rivalry game. Then the following week, Saturday, September the 27th, the Ohio State Buckeyes make their way to Seattle. And I'll leave it there. That's the first month of the season. Their bye week will take a little while longer to get to that one again. So we'll just stop here for the moment. But that is a 2-0 start, most likely. And then we'll see. I mean, I don't know what to make of Washington State at this point, or Oregon State for that matter. Like, they should be the best teams for where they now currently reside, but are they still as good as they were when they were residing in the Pac-12? You know what I mean? Like, what's the talent level like? Are they still up to snuff in that regard? I don't know. I have questions about that, but it's still a rivalry game. They jumped up and bit them last year, and then Ohio State right after that. So, it could be a very interesting first month of the season for the Huskies.
Yeah, I think that, 3-1 out of the first 4, keeps you where you want to be. I think, just based on what Phil just said, 4-0 is a possibility to me, obviously the possibility anytime, but I think you got to be 3-0 going into Ohio State to feel really good about yourself against that team, which I agree with them. I think that they're going to take a little bit of a step back because they lost a lot of people, including 2 very elite coaches. And there's going to be an adjustment there. It's still the first month. They'll have a freshman playing quarterback. So, I think you've got a really good shot there, although this will be Damon Williams' first year playing quarterback at Washington. So, I think 3-1 is probably what they'll be, but the Apple Cup, you really have to.
Washington State beat them last year.
Exactly. You have to
now,
throw
Dicker's
out.
gone, right? Dicker went across town, across the country.
Yes.
So
they have a new coach too. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah,
Damon Williams played last year. He was their main starter last year.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes. Yeah, I kept thinking about what's his name from
Will Rogers.
Will
Rogers got hurt pretty much immediately.
Yeah.
So
Michael Penix?
Michael Penix, was there, but Damon Williams is that dude and was that dude most of last year as Will Rogers came in and got hurt and just got passed up eventually. So that's the big selling point is, I think, Damon Williams at the top of the list. So they will get into the month of October, Maryland, out in College Park on October the 4th, hitting the road to start the month of October. Then it's a Friday night game as they will take on Rutgers on FS1 as a part of that Big Ten Fox deal. That'll be at home at Husky Stadium. Then traveling with an extra day to prepare to Ann Arbor for a showdown with the Michigan Wolverines. And the final game in October, Brett Bielema and the Illinois Fighting Illini at home at Husky Stadium. So a full month of October with 4 games, 2 of them at home, 2 on the road, interchangeable. Maryland on the road, Rutgers at home, Michigan on the road, and Illinois at home.
Yeah, those last 2 will be really, really tough, no matter what. Again, Rutgers and Maryland will remain to be seen, and they got Rutgers at home. Going to Michigan and winning is going to be really hard. Illinois should be pretty good this year. So, yeah, I do think there's a shot they come out of this stretch with a second loss, but Jed Fish has he built up Arizona pretty fast and went into Washington with a lot more resources. So it wouldn't be surprised to me to see them go in and get a big win in Michigan if they did in year 1, but that one's going to be tough to pull off.
There's a lot of teams in that group where you just don't know, are they going to be 7-6 teams or are they going to be that 5-7, 6-7 teams? I have no idea what to expect from Sharon Moore and Michigan. I would think they would bounce back a little bit, just so much going on last year, but who knows?
Yeah, I mean, that's the whole thing. Nobody really knows until we get there, right? So the month of November, the final stretch of the year, they will have the first weekend off. That'll be their second and final bye week. Then it is November the 8th at Wisconsin. Then November 15th, home against Purdue. Back on the road November 22nd for the road trip to Los Angeles and Westwood against UCLA, which doesn't matter as much to me as if Michigan were doing it or Penn State or whoever out east. This is Pac-12 traveling still for Washington, so not a big deal like it could be for some other teams. And they will close with 2 Pac games, so to speak, as they go to Los Angeles to play the Bruins, and then it is at home on November the 29th, closing out the regular season against the Oregon Ducks. So they get to play Ohio State, they get to play Michigan, they get to play Oregon. I don't know how many other teams play all 3 of those teams in the Big Ten schedule, but that is what they draw there. And as far as what they don't draw, no Indiana, no Iowa, no Michigan State, Minnesota, Nebraska, Northwestern, no Penn State. no USC, and that's it. That's who they will not face in the regular season. But they do get some of the big boys, or big brands, big names there with the Buckeyes, Wolverines, and also the Ducks. So there you go. There's that stretch run there in the month of November.
I think they're a 9-3 team right now. I do. Maybe.
Are those the 3 games you're picking them to lose? Michigan, Ohio State, and Oregon.
No, not necessarily. I think they might win one of those. I do think though that now, because there is not as much, because there's so much parity around, most teams, even really good ones, are gonna lose a rando. You're gonna have one out there that's just like, hey, last year they probably could have said it was Wazoo, but they go like, hey, we went to Wisconsin. They were ready to go. It was, it was the first snow of the year. They were all jacked up, and we just got caught in a whirlwind. Yeah, I mean, those things happen nowadays. Yeah, we got Barry Odom, 2/3 of the way through the season, and his team finally clicked, and we were kind of screwed, like that day.
Hey.
Like those are the things that happen more and more often in college football now because of the parity, because of the portal, because of all that.
Bielema and Illinois and there's 3 or 4 of those programs in the Big Ten that aren't going to beat themselves very often, and you can't have a day where you lay it on the ground a couple of different times. So there's that extra game, like you said. It's just the weather, whatever, coming off a bigger game that you just blow a tire.
Yeah, I mean, there's some excitement because of Damon Williams. I mean, Will Rogers was a good quarterback, but it's kind of the Williams show, I guess, now. And they had a promising first year with Jedd Fisch in terms of it's a kind of a not what they were looking for coming off the momentum of the playoff and all of that. But when you have a bunch of turnover, like I just think last year's you kind of crumple it up and throw it away, right? So now we'll really get to see now they got their claws dug in, and we'll see what happens with Washington, with Williams definitely being the guy, and what all they've added, and just that Big Ten schedule, you don't really know.
They were 6-7 last year. I didn't realize that. I thought they had won a couple extra games. And Rodgers led them in passing for every.
Yeah, he played more than I thought.
Yeah,
I was wrong on that, Paul. You were right. I mean, Damon Williams played quite a bit, but I thought Rodgers missed more time than he did.
No, he had 2 or 3 300-yard games too. But
I must be thinking of some other situation then, because for some reason I had it stuck in my head that he got hurt early and then he missed a bunch of time. But I guess that wasn't right. So I'll take that.
I should have said first full year as the starter.
Yeah.
So they love him.
Was he at Mississippi State?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. It seemed like when the transfer portal. Wait a minute.
I think that's probably part of the problem is I'm thinking of some other transfer, and my bad on that. But for some reason I just had that stuck in my head that he was hurt and missed time. But no, he played quite a bit. Williams got to play a good amount though, and 6-7 was not exactly what they're expecting. But like I said, I think that's kind of that first year transition, new conference, new. Everything, new coach, new all sorts of stuff. And so I think we'll get a much bigger picture of what to expect from Jedd Fisch and Washington Huskies program under his leadership this year.
If you would have looked at their schedule entering last year, you would not have seen them losing to Rutgers. And Schiano's doing a nice job there. They had smoked by Iowa. Iowa scored 40 against them. And then, of course, Indiana jumped up and beat them, too, which was a better team than anyone could have thought. So there was a couple of games you didn't think. And then losing to Washington State, that ruins their entire 365 days until they play them again.
I think I must have been thinking about Will Rogers the year prior at Mississippi State is what I've got stuck in my head.
Yeah. No, can you imagine, like, if you're the Big Ten team that gave up 40 to Iowa, and you have to really look at yourself in the mirror after that one. I think that'll be different this year. I think they're gonna be a little bit different. But when Iowa's offense all of a sudden starts to find itself, and you're like, that was against us.
Okay. Yeah. Iowa scored 40 against Illinois State, Washington, Northwestern, 42 against Wisconsin. Yeah. They put up some points, maybe more than you really think. All right, Craig, you got it. Washington, the Huskies, and also still kind of at times I got to catch myself that they're a part, as are UCLA, USC, and Oregon of the Big Ten. When we come back, Paul Catalina and his top 5. Andrew has put up a couple of the polls. We'll have the results. Thank you for your time. Please hit the like and subscribe button. We're back in a moment, but Paul's top 5 is next.
by your inbox? Clean Email is here to help. Organize, clean, and manage your emails with powerful automation tools. Say goodbye to spam and clutter and enjoy a stress-free inbox. Try Clean Email today at cleanemail.com. That's CLEAN email.com. Founded in 1910, Samsonite is the world leader in durable, high-quality luggage and travel accessories. Made to the highest standards, our products won't let you down. We give you the confidence to get out there and explore. Inspired by the past, devoted to the present, and built to inspire a multi-generational future, Samsonite is here to elevate your journey. Travel with Samsonite and pack confidence every step of the way. Shop now at shop.samsonite.com. Samsonite.
This is Paul Catalina's Top 5.
Good afternoon. This is the Top 5 brought to you by Flag and Anthem. Go to flagandanthem.com. Use our promo code 365sports for a discount at checkout. They've got great stuff like this shirt right here. Our Big 12 Transfer Newcomer Series, UCF, the Knights Edition. Let's dive right in, shall we? Number 5. Linebacker Kelly Lawson from Virginia Tech. He is a very athletic linebacker, long, rangy, gets after it. They needed help on defense, especially right up the middle when it came to defensive tackle, linebacker, those positions. They've got to stop the run. Now, things are going to change under Scott Frost, but UCF had to get better on defense. Getting a linebacker like Kelly Lawson helps them do that. Number 4, quarterback Taven Jackson. Usually, the transfer quarterback is much higher on my list. But since I'm just guessing that Taven Jackson is going to be the starter, he's number 4. He has the most quality starting experience of anyone that's in that quarterback room right now. But God only knows who it is because they're going to expand that competition into the fall. He's the likely winner of it. But I don't know. And neither do you. Number 3, running back Jaden Nixon. Former Oklahoma State player. He's bounced around a little bit, but he fits in Scott Frost's offense very well. Got a good range, runs really fast, powerful, can score some touchdowns. But has the last couple years bounced around a little bit. Now he finds a new home in Orlando. Number 2, cornerback Jaden Bellamy. This is one of the better cornerbacks that was in the transfer portal from Syracuse. He hops on down to Central Florida. And this is another part of that defense that I talked about earlier. They need to get better at stopping the deep ball, all these things. UCF, under Gus Malzahn the last couple of years, now it's one of the reasons why he decided to bail and go to FSU, but they were just not strong on the defensive side of the ball. And whether it came to giving up big runs, giving up big plays in the passing game, they needed guys who could help that out. And number 1, defensive end Sincere Edwards. This was their best pull in the transfer portal. By a long shot. A lot of people wanted him. He's a quality pass rusher. It's a key to have in any level of football is somebody who can get after the quarterback. They haven't had that in about 3 years. Somebody as reliable as Sincere Edwards. Let's see how he fits in the system, but Pitt will miss him, and he can get up the field and get after the quarterback. That's going to do it for this edition of the Top 5. We have another one coming tomorrow, of course. Now, Smokey must read some polls.
Andrew Valade, 2 polls today. And the first one, with the results that we do at the end of every show, will Texas State's move to the Pac-12 be a hit or miss? I cannot imagine how 43% did not agree with the hit, 57%.
Well, I mean, what is the Pac-12 now? Right? I mean, so that nobody knows. So I guess I would say that I think it'll be a hit for them. But
well, monetarily, they're going to make a lot more money. Probably gets more exposure, even though the Pac-12 kind of figuring all that out, even though they have the new extension. I would have thought this would have been about 70% that it would be a hit. Craig?
I mean, I think it's a hit, but I also think that people don't necessarily think it's the biggest deal in the world because the Pac-12 is not sitting there with teams from Oregon and USC and Michigan, or not Michigan, but Washington and, schools like that anymore. It's not the same league. So I think that because of that, there's people that don't look at this as really that big of a deal. Now, it is if you're Texas State, it's a huge deal. But if you're just Joe Blow in Columbus, Ohio, I don't think that you really have this on your radar whatsoever. So that's probably some of it, that it's just not that big of a deal. But for Texas State, rest assured that it is.
All right. Also, the other poll, which and I got to tell you, this is where I had to go. I had to get on Google. Which of these specific drafts years were the ones that stand out the most? Of course, recency last night, what we saw, Cooper Flag, etc. 59% said that this class from last night will stand out the most among the last four.
We got a lot of people who don't like France.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I mean,
that's
really
right.
just we're like, hey, this is the National Basketball Association of America.
America.
So
America.
No, I mean, look, last night.
Who was the first foreign player last night?
I think was it Noah Esengwe?
Yeah, might have been.
I mean,
yeah.
they had several. I mean, towards the back end, but the lottery was mostly American players, or at least players who came from.
Well,
American
VJ.
College. Yeah, I mean, he was, but I mean, who came from American colleges that weren't guys who were playing overseas. So we'll see more overseas guys playing in colleges now because of NIL.
Yep, and they're also working on the ability for making sure that they can get that and make that legal, because that's kind of a little bit of some red tape there. All right, Garrett Ross, thank you very much. You got an Adidas hat, just a simple Adidas hat today.
Keep it simple today.
Very simple. Andrew Valade, thank you very much, Andrew. Andrew will all shove everything we've put out for the last 3 hours on social media with content. Emery Winters working on 365 Sports tonight at 10:30 tonight on the local CW. Thanks to our great sponsors. Thanks to those of you who watch us every day, or even if it's the first time today. For Craig Smoak and Paul Catalina, I'm David Smoak. Good night, 365 Sports.